1.
Good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, February 28th, 2018 meeting of the Longmeadow School Committee. I call the meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded and aired live by LCTV, as well as being live streamed on longmeadow.org. It is a legal requirement for anyone else to disclose if they are recording the meeting. Is anyone here recording the meeting?
Western Mass News.
Okay, thank you. Both of you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence. First, for a member of our school community. His name was Sean Keedzier, and we lost him today. So please join me in the first moment of silence for Sean. Thank you. I'd also like to have a second moment of silence for the students who lost their lives in the Parkland, Florida tragedy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have a large crowd again tonight. We have overflow in the BTC room down the hall. I hope that you're able to hear me. If you are not, please come down and let us know if you can't hear us at any point. You can't hear me in here. Okay. I will speak louder. Thank you. But if anyone in the other room isn't able to hear us on the recording, please come on down and let us know. Okay. I am going to begin the meeting with a few announcements. First of all, due to a posting error, the executive session that had originally been scheduled will not be held. The original posting had a word none that conflicted with a checkoff sentence in our executive session posting. So it would have been a violation of the open meeting law. So we had two choices: to meet knowing that there would be a violation of the open meeting law as the posting was not perfect, or two, to reschedule the executive session and repost the agenda correctly. And I, of course, went with the canceling the executive session. That was also an opinion from our attorney. Second, I'd like to thank all the visitors and community members that came to our meeting last on the 14th. And I apologize for not being able to communicate to everyone a thank you to those of you who came. So thank you so much if anyone was here before and is here now, or to anyone watching on TV. Thank you for coming and sharing your feedback and your comments. They were much appreciated. Also, I would like to thank the staff and the members of the Longmeadow Education Association for coming and for writing and sharing all your feedback on our superintendent. They were much appreciated. I did send a letter out through the school messenger today, but I'd like to read it in case anyone didn't receive it. Dear Ms. Risotto and members of the Longmeadow Education Association, thank you so much for your emails, your letters, and for attending our school committee meeting on Wednesday, February 14th, 2018. The school committee values all of your perspectives and input and appreciates all of the information our educators have spent the time to communicate. I have served on the Longmeadow School Committee for the past 4 years and have had the pleasure of working with Marty since he first began his superintendency in Longmeadow. Both as a parent and as a committee member, I have witnessed a remarkable amount of positive change in a very short period of time and reflected that sentiment and more in Marty's performance evaluation last year. The school committee and I are committed to finding a resolution that will ensure that all of our students continue to have the best education possible and that our leadership remains as successful as it has been. Thank you again for your commitment to our schools. It is because of people like you that Longmeadow remains a community that I am proud of. So thank you, and to those of you who are here tonight, thank you. I am not going to read a very lengthy letter that I did send out through School Messenger, but if anyone here was interested in it, it did have some information. It thanked everyone, explained a few things, and included some information on the open meeting law. If anyone still needs that, they can email me. I can email it to you, reach out to anybody on the team, and we can get that to you. I'd also like to, one thing I didn't put out in my letter that we've had a lot of questions about, I asked our attorneys to just explain something for us, for me, to explain to you, a citation from the law requiring the requirement that a school committee not disclose private personnel information regarding a public employee. Mass Public Records Law, Exemption C, and General Law C 214, Section 1B. Limit what can be disclosed about a public employee to information which is not considered a personnel file or is not inherently private. I hope that helps. And let's see. And finally, while I still have everyone's attention, I realized last night that the deadline to draw papers to run in this June's election for school committee is this Friday. And last I checked, no one had pulled papers to run. My term and Russ's term are both up at the end of this year, or this term, and we're both up for re-election. As much as I have enjoyed the honor and privilege on the Long Meadow School Committee, of serving on the Long Meadow School Committee, and have felt privileged to witness firsthand all of the positive change that has occurred since I started in March of 2014, I have decided not to seek re-election in order to shift my volunteer time to other efforts I am also passionate about. I appreciate the support that I've received from the staff and from the community throughout my tenure, and hope that other dedicated men and women are able to come forward and continue my advocacy for the students of the Long Meadow Public Schools. I hope that someone is listening and hearing and interested in running for the school committee, because it's a very important position, and we definitely need some people to come forward. Thank you. One final celebration. I noticed this on your superintendent's report too, but I'd just like to commend our Long Meadow's own Bryn Cartelli for being seen on The Voice and for moving forward on The Voice and having such an enormous opportunity. So I just wanted to put that celebration out there, and I know I want you to mention it too, because it comes better from, you have to say it again because you're more of a dignitary, but anyway, congratulations to Bryn. And I wanted to give the school committee some time to give some announcements or recognitions, because I know that we received a lot of comments at our last meeting and we weren't able to respond, so I wanted to give you all the opportunity if you wanted to right now. So if anyone, Beth?
Are you saying in
I'm
reference
gonna
to emails or general?
If you had any comments or announcements that you wanted to make.
I do.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me okay in the room?
No, they're on.
Are they not on?
Well, in the corner or the hallway? Right here. Okay, because it might be anybody in the hallways, if you have trouble hearing it, you might hear better in the overflow room. I don't know, but we can't continue if you can't hear us, so let us know if you can't hear us, and we'll try to speak louder.
All right, I'll go ahead. I'll speak as loudly as I can. Feel free to just shout out at me if you cannot hear me. I won't be offended. For most of you who come to meetings or watch at home, you know that I take this job very seriously. I give careful deliberation to everything that comes across our table. And I normally will take everything in and I will give a thoughtful response, very oftentimes off the cuff. However, given the situation that we are faced with, I did prepare remarks tonight and I would like to read them. I am keeping in the 2 to 3 minute visitor comment mark, so I'm not going to go on and on, but I felt they were important. I wanted to line them out, and I feel like I want to get this message out to the community. I would like the opportunity to address the room, as well as anyone watching this evening, in regards to the ongoing situation between Marty O'Shea, the school committee, and the school committee. I'm speaking solely for myself tonight, and not in collaboration with any of my colleagues. I've spoken privately with some parents who have called me directly with questions or concerns regarding the lack of information being given to the community, largely in part due to the executive session meetings, which Michelle had alluded to prior. I've always been careful to not get into specifics or disclose any information that would be privy to only the committee, but I have listened, and to the best of my ability, I've answered any questions that have been brought forth to me. I serve on this committee as a parent and a former substitute teacher, so I have a variety of perspectives that I bring into this room every single time I sit down at this table. As a parent, I totally understand your frustration when meetings are posted and then removed from the agenda. but please know that this is often the result of procedural matters and not the intent of the committee to be clandestine or underhanded. I myself share the frustration that we don't have an executive session scheduled tonight so that we can really get down to the necessary work of handling this situation. I also know you want details that by law we cannot give you right now. Please understand that when Marty sent his email out to the community on February 14th, acknowledging that the committee has genuine concerns and asking time for the committee and himself to move forward, he was absolutely correct about time and opportunity. I know it's hard to hear trust the process, and I feel like I've said it so many times in the last month, but I want the community to know I am doing my best to allow for such time and opportunity. I have had great conversations with Marty over the last month. I've had a great working relationship with him since June. I've had great conversations with parents. I am listening. I apologize if things aren't happening at a quicker and more satisfying pace, but given school vacation week and aligning the schedules of 8 people on this committee, please trust that we will get there and we will be able to once again meet and deliberate these important matters. Finally, I'd like to communicate to Marty, the administrators, faculty, staff, parents, and fellow committee members that there are several things that I don't tolerate, and I'm going to say this because I know what the general public perception is right now. I don't tolerate dishonesty, manipulation, or self-serving agendas. I wholeheartedly support open and clear communication, collaboration, and a genuine mission to continue to serve the students in this district. I hear what you are saying, and I realize we have to do better. We have to do a better job here moving forward and working together, because this situation, while important, and I don't want to minimize it at all, because I wake up every morning thinking of it, and it's the last thing I think of when I go to bed at night. But it really is taking away from the good and important work we can and should be doing every day for these kids, and that's why we're all here. I mean, look at our agenda. Packed. We have a full agenda, and I ran to serve this community and to serve its students. I'd like us all to get back to doing the work that makes Longmeadow the exceptional school system that it is.
Thank you, Beth. Karen?
Thank you all for coming. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. When I decided to run for school committee last year, it was really because I love Longmeadow and I wanted to give back to the community. I love the character of the town. I love the people and friends that have become my family. And as my kids grow, I have come to love the schools as well. I have had a positive interaction with every single teacher and administrators that my kids have had. More than that, I have grown to truly love some of the people in these schools. We have some of the most hardworking, dedicated, and kind individuals working with our children here in Longmeadow. What has happened in the past few weeks has been difficult for all involved. Heartbreaking, challenging, confusing, frustrating, I recognize that. I know there has not been a lot of information from the committee. It is not due to a desire to keep things from the community. We cannot speak individually for the committee as a whole. And we cannot speak as a committee as a whole without meeting first. Part of it is the nature of the beast. Executive sessions are sometimes required and sometimes necessary. Open meeting laws can be clumsy and inefficient. We are doing our very best to comply with the law and remain transparent. In the days leading up to our February 14th meeting, we received a lot of correspondence in support of Dr. O'Shea, and I listened to all of the voices that came to speak on his behalf. And I took what was said to heart and tried to do exactly what you all requested. I met with Marty. We had a very frank, honest, and what I believe to have been a productive conversation. We may not always agree, and that is okay. My expectation is that we do so respectfully and honestly and come to some sort of compromise. It was my belief that what was being asked of us was to listen, and as Diane Giorganta said so eloquently, communicate and build bridges. I just hope that you all know that we are all here volunteering for this position because we are striving for the same thing, the very best for our kids, our staff, our teachers, our administrators, and our town. Thank you.
Yes.
forgive us for some of the repetitiveness probably of the statements, but first I want to thank everybody who's come out to our meetings both tonight and all the people who came to the last meeting. Your presence and statements were meaningful and heartfelt, and it's inspiring, and it was inspiring to be in a room full of staff who are so sincerely dedicated to our children. And I think someone said that in one of their emails, that just like hearing from so many people and having everybody here on that night was in so many ways such an amazing energy, and seeing so many incredibly dedicated people. And I know how lucky we are in this town to have so many dedicated people on our staff. And as a teacher and a lawyer myself, and someone who comes from a long line of teachers, I have the deepest respect for educators. We have a special school district because of our dedicated and passionate staff. I know many people have expressed concerns regarding transparency and wonder why you're not informed of the issues sooner. As others have stated tonight, I understand why you would feel that way. It's unfortunate that lack of information is causing such discomfort, false narratives, and untrue rumors. This is the last thing any of us wants, especially in a small, wonderful, and special town that we live in. As a school committee, we have a distinctive relationship with the superintendent. We have a unique day-to-day working relationship. We also have the responsibility as a committee to hire, contract with, evaluate, and make all employment decisions relative to the superintendent. Because of this management role bestowed upon us by the state of Massachusetts, we are sometimes privy to information that is not public. Be assured that the purpose for the laws of executive sessions are not designed to promote secrecy for public officials. To the contrary, they are designed to protect the rights and reputation of the employees. The school committee is responsible for protecting sensitive personnel information of all employees, and in this case, the superintendent. When complaints are made against an employee, it is the choice of the employee for the session to be held in public or private. When the employee chooses to hold a private session, we cannot release this information publicly without his or her consent. I can say with great confidence that every single member of the school committee is working selflessly and collaboratively on your behalf. Serving on the school committee requires a lot of hard work and sacrifice, preparing for meetings, attending committee meetings, attending subcommittee meetings, attending and preparing for every committee and meeting you could possibly imagine. It's a volunteer job. It's unpaid. It means a lot of time away from our children and our spouses, and a lot of support and work at home from our spouses and our children. But we do this, and we all do this, because we care deeply about our town, about our community, and most importantly, about our schools. And we care first and foremost about the safety, welfare, and best interest of all of our students in Long Meadow. My husband and I grew up in Long Meadow and graduated from LHS. My father served 9 years on the school committee. My husband's father served 3 years. This is my 5th year giving my heart and soul to this town as a member of the Long Meadow School Committee. Everything I do in my role as a school committee member is done on behalf of our children and our school districts. I take my oath as a public servant very seriously, and I am honored by the sacred trust the community has continued to place in me. I am equally honored and grateful to be in the company of my fellow school committee members who all share this selfless, personal, professional, and passionate commitment to our schools and our community. In conclusion, I know that this is a challenging time for all of us, but I also know that we can get through it with kindness, with empathy, and with respect for one another. It is each of our individual actions and words that create the collective culture of our community in Long Meadow, and it defines the quality of our lives in Long Meadow as residents. Thank you so much for listening.
Melanie?
I don't, excuse me, I don't have a prepared statement, so I'm going to try to just go off the cuff here a little bit. And I don't think I need to reiterate what everyone else here has said tonight, but I wholeheartedly, concur with what they've said. I do want to thank you all for your input, for your emails, for your attendance here tonight. I do need my glasses because I did jot down some notes here quickly. I would ask also that you please don't make assumptions about motives and why, motives as to why this is happening or why things are going on behind closed doors, like, my colleagues have mentioned. Know that how difficult it is for us that we can't even talk to each other. I can't go home and talk to my husband. I can't talk to my friends. I can't even talk to them. That's really, really hard when you have no one to talk to. You kind of just go home and stare at the wall. But know that that's difficult for us as well. And the only place that we're able to talk collectively as a group are in those executive sessions. So know that each time we go into executive session, for me, it's a clean slate. I go in again. I've heard what you've said. We've read the letters. I've talked to Marty. We're communicating. So for me, when I go into an executive session, I bring in the materials that you all have brought forward too. I think, clearly it's not over. It's not over. Clearly it's not. I think most importantly, you're all being here and you're sending the emails lets me know that it's not just about our relationship with Marty. It's about our relationship with the town, with the community, with the students, with the teachers, with the administrators, and with our children. I mean, I have children in this town. I listen to probably 10 teachers at my children. I have a 25-year-old and down to 16, so I've been here for a long time, and I had to listen to the teachers that have taught my children, that have mentored them, that have guided them. I'm hearing everything that you're saying, and it is a clean slate every time we're able to go back and talk again. So just know that nothing is a done deal. It's not over, and we're keeping that communication and options and discussion open. Thanks.
Hi. So at the end of last meeting, I tried to make it clear that we needed time to talk to Marty, to try and figure out what our next steps would be, to see if we can move in a positive direction. We need to hear from Marty, and we can't do that outside of a meeting. So tonight was supposed to be the night. It can't happen now because the posting was incorrect. We're going to try our best to try and do it next week. However, you need to understand that we need the time to do that. So I completely understand the frustration of the public and why people are upset. They don't know what's going on. I would like to say that the rumors about why we're here, why this is happening, Glenbrook and the cafeteria, those things are completely false. So I can put that to bed right now. Not the reason we're talking to Marty. I think those were handled fine. Marty and I have talked about that. And I've talked to Marty quite a bit ever since our last meeting, trying to discuss how we can move forward. But Marty is the one I can talk to. So I can't talk to everybody else in the committee. I can't talk to any of you. I can't talk to the public. I can't talk to the other administrators, the union. And I said that at the last meeting, and the reason I said that is because I was not going to contact any of you. Not because I don't want to, but because legally it's not appropriate. I talked to Marty. I'm hoping that we can work things out, and that's who I should talk to. So it's not fair to Marty for me to talk to anyone else. And I know we've gotten a lot of letters about how we should be, but I can't. And it's just not, it's a fairness issue. It's the way the law is set up. It makes sense because it wouldn't be fair. It would undermine Marty for me to do that. Positive or negative. And it would also undermine the rest of the committee. So I know it seems crazy that this is the way it works, but unfortunately it is the way it works. Now, the other thing I'd say is some of the rumors going around town about the reasons that we are having meetings with Marty are also false. So there's 7 people on the committee. We look at issues. We try to deal with them with Superintendent O'Shea. The motives I've heard around town are completely false. If you think I'd be doing anything because any of those things, it's incorrect. And anybody that knows me would know that. And I think most of this committee, and maybe all of this committee, that's true. So I know things are flying around about Marty, which are untrue, and there's things that are flying around about us that are untrue. the bottom line is, it's an employment situation. We're going to deal with it appropriately and hopefully professionally. I think Marty and I have had a lot of good conversations too, and I know from what Karen just said, they've had good conversations. But until the committee meets as a whole with Marty, we can't do this individually. So unfortunately tonight, I know people are still looking for an immediate answer, and we can't give you one yet. We have to talk to Marty first, try to see how we can move forward. I still stand by what I said at the last meeting. I still plan to do that. And I told that to Marty again today. I mean, it's what we need to do. We understand that. But it doesn't mean that the committee's concerns are not something that should be addressed. They're not, the rumors you've heard are not true. You know, those things, Marty hasn't done anything like that. There's no issues with some of those things that are going around town. However, there are issues that we need to address. So hopefully we can do that. I know it's confusing and it's not, you know, if I was a parent sitting on the other side, I'd be wondering the same thing. I mean, I'd be wondering what is happening. And so we hope by next week we can have another meeting and we can probably provide you with a lot more information. Hopefully we can do it with Marty as well. But tonight, unfortunately, we're really, you know, we are where we are at the moment. So the last thing I wanted to mention, as is Michelle's term's ending, my term's also ending. And I've been thinking about this quite a bit for the last several months. But I have some things going on in my house that are very serious. I really need to spend time on those things. And because of that, I also am not going to run. So I'm hoping that, I know I've been checking to see if anybody's pulling papers. I hope somebody does. I hope we get somebody to run for school committee. I think it's very important that we have people that are really dedicated to the school and to administration and the staff. So hopefully somebody will pull papers, but unfortunately I'm not going to continue. So thank you.
I don't have anything prepared. I actually wasn't prepared for this crowd. I was focused on our policies that we're going to address later and hadn't considered this part of it. But for those who know me, I'm not a person who's generally at a loss for words. I'm not someone who doesn't respond. This has been particularly difficult because I'm not sure what I can say. I'm not sure how I can respond. And that has been very difficult for me in relaying information to you. And that's the reason I haven't responded, because I'm not sure how I can. And so to that point, I'd like to ask for some clarification on executive session. And my understanding is that executive session is there to protect the personnel's, the employees' privacy, but that they have a right to waive their right to executive session. So if we were to bring our discussions forward to the public and let them know what is going on, my understanding is Marty would have to waive that right. And I'm not sure how that takes place, if that's something that is discussed in executive session, if it's something that's asked, if it's something he just presents. But given the emails that have come to us and have asked for information to be brought forward to the public, I wanted to raise that question about how that works if a right is waived. How is it brought to the public, and how is that asked and granted? And so I don't know if that's something you can answer now, but I wanted to raise that question.
Let me let
I
Russ
think-
explain it.
Well, I think that, isn't that what the attorney,
Which one? This one? The
Yeah.
disclosure? Or the open meeting law?
well, I think this is, so, to answer your question, well, I can't give legal advice, so
Can you just explain it as a committee member for me?
So, yes, the person about whom a complaint is made can decide to have it in an open session. Otherwise, it could be an executive session. Now, the committee could decide, we're just going to do it in open session anyway, even if the employee doesn't want you to do that. The problem with that is, one, it's going to be real hard to find another employee to work for you if you're going to force them to do these type of things publicly if they don't want to. But two, what I think Attorney Foskett or Liz, our other attorney, is saying is that you also have the rights of privacy of an employee's personnel record, and so you have two laws kind of competing for why you might do something privately. The third thing is, in situations like this, if any of the complaints deal with kids or other parents or students, that's another reason why trying to do that publicly could be problematic, because you might have the rights of other people that are involved that would have to be looked at. So I don't think it's as simple as, yes, Marty could ask to do it open, and then we would probably do that, but we'd have a whole bunch of caveats about how we do it. And I would say, in Marty's defense, that's, committees almost never force somebody to do it in open session. And there's reasons why you might want to do it in executive. But I guess the rumor that's out there that the committee is trying to do it in open session to hide something, that's not true. This is just the process. It's the way it works. For both sides. Yeah. Yeah.
So in that case, we would also be limited, even if we said we're going to do it in public, we would be limited in what we can talk about anyway.
I think the attorney would likely not allow us to talk about some of the issues. But again, I think where we're at right now is we're trying to have a conversation with Marty. My understanding is right now that would happen in executive session most likely. And we try to move in a direction together, hopefully. But
Thanks.
that was probably as clear as mud, I guess. But
I think everyone has spoken, so let's move on to, thank you, everybody, for being more eloquent than I was. Find my agenda. Next, we're going to move on to correspondence, and there was a lot. Melanie?
Please forgive me if I mispronounce your name, please. So we have a number of emailed letters expressing support for Superintendent O'Shea and/or concerns regarding recent executive sessions to discuss his contract and requests for more information. Correspondence on this subject were received from Elizabeth Antonopoulos on 2/14/18, Elizabeth Bajic on 2/13/18, Peter Bradshaw on 2/12/2018, Cynthia Calvanese on 2/13/18, Stephen Chandler on 2/15/18, Rashika Conroy on 2/13/18, Emily Saprina on 2/13/18, and Michael Saprina on 2/13/18. Mary Beth Davis, 2/13/18, Lori Deary, 2/18/18, Natalie DeGrule on 2/13/18, Jean DeRusha, 2/16/18, James DeBurn on 2/13/18, Donna Doyle Melchiona on 2/14, Carla Drake, 2/13, Lori Fallon, 2/14, Matt Flanagan, 2/13, Julia Fournier Ray on 2/14, Chris Gerard, 2/15, Christine Hinley, 2/13, Lynn Hopkins, 2/15, Eric Howard, 2/13, Meredith Laughlin on 2/13, Karen Locke, 2/13, Victoria Metz, 2/13, Rosemarie Moriarty on 2/13, Robin Mulcahy on 2/14, Mary Murphy, 2/15, PJ Nasser, 2/14, Patrick O'Shea, 2/15, Lois Ostrander, 2/13, Gina Pantusco, 2/13, Neil Prankus, 2/13, Craig Robbins, 2/13, Anne Marie Salvan, 2/14, Allison Schlachter, 2/14, Kevin Shea, 2/14, Philippa Siegel, 2/14, Stefan Soberg, 2/14, Eliza Snow, 2/13, Lori Snyder, 2/13, Mark Strange, 2/13, Don Stryker, 2/13, Mary Talbot Berry, 2/13, Shelley Warren, 2/14, and Kathleen Wells on 2/14 as well. We also had a correspondence, an email letter from Ms. Nancy Mueller requesting her son to be allowed to participate in athletics, even though he's not enrolled as a student at Long Meadow High School. This will be on our agenda for later tonight. And lastly, an email letter from Ms. Kathleen Risotto dated February 27th regarding concerns about the situation with the superintendent and not having received a response from the school committee acknowledging the concerns of speakers from the February 14th meeting and Ms. Grodzki's response to Ms. Risotto's dated February 27th. And that's it.
Thank you. But if you did send correspondence and your name was not read, please send either myself or Diane an email and let us know, and we will make sure that it gets entered in. We had a lot of correspondence, and some was sent to one email address, and some was sent to each of ours individually, and some of them could have been lost. And, we got them, but they might not have been put on here as official correspondence, so just let us know. Next thing I'd like to do is move to superintendent comments, if you'd like.
Sure. Thank you for the time, and kind of echo what I said last week, and that is that I wouldn't want anyone to doubt the commitment of this committee. I don't feel as though the executive sessions have been unfair to me in any way. I feel like the committee has been observant of the law and respectful of my rights as an employee, and I appreciate that. I am, as I said last week, I'm very interested in moving forward with the committee. I do recognize that the committee has concerns that deserve a response from me. And I'm anxious for that to happen. I think we had all hoped that we could have had the conversation prior to tonight's meeting, and for a variety of reasons that did not happen. I do believe that there is the question of whether this should be conducted in open session or closed session, and I do believe that our best opportunity to have a frank, honest conversation is frankly in executive session, where I have an opportunity to listen to the concerns and respond and hopefully collaboratively work with the committee to develop a plan to move forward. And yet I also recognize that when those discussions are held in executive session, that it inevitably creates questions and speculation, speculation about what might have prompted the executive session to begin with, speculation about what the concerns or complaints are. And I look forward to the chance to talk to the committee, and I have had some very constructive conversations with several members of the committee, and I look forward to building on that. And for my part, I would want to assure the community and my colleagues that the concerns, while important to the committee and understandable to me, that there is nothing in the complaints or concerns that should be seen as bringing shame to me or my career or my name. There's nothing in the complaints or concerns that represents a violation of the law. They're not related to the management of the district, in my view. And yet, I do understand that these are concerns that need to be addressed. And I'm looking forward to that opportunity, and I'm looking forward to having that frank, open, honest conversation with the committee.
Thank you. Okay, so next I'd like to move on to visitor comments. For visitor comments, we have set up sign-up sheets again. I have some here if there's anyone else that hasn't signed up that would like to. We'll have opportunity for that afterwards, or I think there's probably still a list circulating. When the last of people who signed up to speak, I will announce if there's anyone else who wanted to speak, please come forward now. I'll do that at the time. We're going to limit it to 3 minutes, which has always been our policy, so please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And also just know that we aren't, it's our policy not to respond, so it's not that we don't want to, but we'll just listen and we're hearing you, and then we'll respond at a later time. So thank you very much. Donna Hutton.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you
I'm
could-
making a statement on behalf of
Okay.
the administrative
Okay.
team. So good evening. At the February 14th school committee meeting, we listened to many members of our community present statements to express their support for Superintendent Marty O'Shea. In each eloquent statement of support, We also heard community members voice strong appeals to the school committee. While appeals were expressed in different ways, we speak tonight to ask the school committee for your response to one common appeal that was presented through many individuals and groups. We view Chairperson Michelle Grotzky's email clarifying school committee procedures and Russ Dupree's post on social media to be acknowledgments of our community's concerns, but not responses to the appeals of the community we together serve. Specifically, we pose this question: how robust is the commitment of each member of the school committee to find a resolution to the issues and concerns that you have with Superintendent O'Shea's leadership, a resolution that includes his continued leadership in our district? This is a question that our community members continue to ask, and a question that continues to cause uncertainty, and we have no answer for them. We are respectfully requesting that each individual member of the Longmeadow School Committee will respond to this important question as soon as feasible to signal to our district your stance. One final thought we want to share, and it's our personal insight. We are fully aware how this situation has unsettled and upset the Longmeadow community, a community we have grown to love in the years of service. We understand that there is information that the community is not privy to because of the executive sessions. That said, we are deeply concerned about the speculation that has arisen regarding Superintendent O'Shea. Out of concern, parents have asked about and shared with us what they have heard, things that would deeply disturb any one of us who works so very hard to be careful with a person's reputation. Marty O'Shea is an educator and a leader who has devoted over 25 years to public education. We plead with our entire community to stop any destructive rumors. Any one of us, public figure or not, would deserve and expect the same level of fairness and respect. Thank you very much. It's respectfully submitted.
Russ?
So Principal Hutton, so what I was just saying is that is not going to happen, unfortunately. So we can't, the committee has to meet with Marty. We have to make a decision together and then respond. So it's, as I said at the end of last meeting, it wasn't, you shouldn't take it as a non-response. It's just we can't respond yet. Because it would, if I sent you something myself, and I think I've already said things in meetings anyway, but the bottom line is it's not supposed to happen that way. I mean, even out of fairness to Marty, because if you got an answer you didn't like, we haven't even met with Marty yet to talk to him. So it can't be, I completely understand that it would be great if we could do that, but it's just, I just want to make it clear that I'm still can't respond, even though I know you'd love us to, and I'd like to. But it's just not possible to do it that way. We really have to hear from Marty first and then make a decision as a group. So I'm sorry about that, but.
Next, we have Julie Keenan.
Juliet Keenan.
Juliet, sorry.
My name is Juliet Keenan.
Thank you.
I am a special education teacher at Center School. I sit supported by my fellow Center School colleagues to deliver this message. We are deeply concerned about the process the school committee is currently engaged in. My tenacity led me to learn as much as possible about this current school committee, your roles, your responsibilities, your philosophies. The contradictions we have witnessed in the past 2 weeks are astonishing. I read an outstanding and energizing statement dated May 12, 2015, posted by a current school committee member. It reads, "I have serious concerns regarding the manner in which decisions are being made and the complete lack of transparency." It continues to say, "In Massachusetts, school systems are set up to ensure that checks and balances exist to prevent any one individual and/or entity from possessing too much control." The statement continues to read, "The open meeting law requires that most school committee decisions be made in meetings that are open to the public. This requirement is crucial to the successful operation of a school system and ensures that the public knows what decisions are being made on its behalf. Without the transparent and open process that the law requires, the public does not know whether the officials it has elected are making decisions that they support. The statement ends with, "I implore the committee and administration to let the community know what it has planned for our school system and children. These decisions are important, directly affect our children and community, and we as citizens deserve to know what is happening in our community." We wholeheartedly agree with the tenets of this post. I don't think we could have said it better. We question the dichotomy in perspective between the school committee and community and stakeholders at large. We ask for transparency to understand if the problem resides solely between the relationship of the school committee and Dr. O'Shea, or if there is a clear and direct complaint from a parent, teacher, or student resulting in executive sessions. We implore the committee to remember the principles and philosophies that led you to the seats you are in while you deliberate on such critical decisions. Respectfully, Juliet Keenan, Julia Manna, Maria Peters, Longmeadow resident, Autumn Rodriguez, Jill Bombardier, resident, Kristen Giugio, Carol Connery, resident, Lauren Heaton, resident, Jessica O'Malley, Deborah Wierzeniak, resident, Linda Nichols, Jenny Serafino, Paige Anderson, Karen Rafferty, resident, Jennifer Mulcahy, resident, Amy Tyler, resident, Betty Hyam, resident, Maria Kataski, resident, Laura Giugio, Vanessa Vigna, Kayla Gildersleeve, Ashley Yonku, resident, Catherine Grant, resident, Danielle Jeffrion, Arlene McLean, resident, Beth Mangwasser, Karen Auerbach, resident, Shelby Marin, Margaret Goldman, Aaron Capitasto, resident, Kristen Gothier, Aaron Kraft, resident, Denise Wysocki, resident, Nancy Hayes, resident, Jamie Quinn, Jess Reed, Karen Shapula, Valerie Fritz, Rachel Campos, Heather Silva, Jen Salvatore, Samantha Quirk, resident, Amy Bridges, Karen Palazzi, resident, Sandra Sweeney, resident, Terry Alexopoulos, resident, Colleen Cummings, resident, Joy Stacy Bocchino, and Melissa Drysdale.
I'm not going to respond to everybody. That was my post about a non-personnel matter. So, as Superintendent O'Shea just said, I, as a committee member, am not going to force somebody to do something they don't want to. And I think I agree with Marty O'Shea that this is something that is probably best resolved because it's a personnel matter and a different type of matter in this way. It's unfortunate, but I think it's a different situation. So,
Julia.
Good evening. My name is Julia Manna, and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Center School and a resident of East Hampton, Massachusetts. My story in Longmeadow is a long one. I was raised in this community. My family and the people in this community helped me to become the person that I am today. I was a student at Blueberry Hill School, Center School, Williams Middle School, and Longmeadow High School. My love of learning stems directly from the time that I spent in the classrooms of this district. My love for this district brought me back after completing my undergraduate and graduate degrees. I value education. Teaching, guiding, and leading students is a hugely important job, and it is my honor to do this work. Now, in recent weeks, I've had to ask myself over and over, what is a leader? And here's something that I know is true. A community is nothing without a strong leader. I consider this district to be my community. A leader should have a strong and positive presence, a clear vision, and should instill in his or her community a desire to grow and learn. In my opinion, Dr. O'Shea, our superintendent, demonstrates the qualities of a true leader. One of the qualities of a strong leader is that they are present. Being in the schools, visiting classes, talking to students, teachers, and families, reading a story, popping in to say hi. This is a demonstration of what leadership and commitment look like. Dr. O'Shea works to attend the special events at our schools, and I can only imagine just how full his daily schedule is. I value the time that he takes to come and see the work that we are doing. I always know he's going to be there. Dr. O'Shea knows and is visible to teachers, staff, and administrators. He is present at committee meetings and at professional development. He makes his voice heard and also knows when to listen. He accepts feedback. This is leadership. George Washington Carver said, "Where there is no vision, there's no hope." This quote can be turned around to read, "Where there is vision, there is hope." I have been in this district for almost 5 years as a teacher, and I can wholeheartedly say that with the input and guidance of Dr. O'Shea, we truly have a vision for where this district is going. Our vision isn't limited to what's immediately before us, but rather to what lies ahead. This gives me hope moving forward as an educator. This is leadership. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. John Quincy Adams. Dr. O'Shea has breathed new life into our teaching community. Administrators, teachers, and staff are energized and engaged. We are being pushed to be our best selves. He has high expectations for our district and has brought out the best in many of us. This is leadership. As I said earlier, I was a student at LHS. I was actually a student when Dr. O'Shea was the assistant principal many years ago. And at that time, I was very relieved to not have had any run-ins with him. But today, as an employee of the Longmeadow Public School District, I consider myself so fortunate to know and work with him. Our future feels bright, and my future feels bright. Thank you.
Steve Dudek, is that you? Okay, thank you.
Hello, school committee members. My name is Steve Dudek, and I live at 136 Grassy Gutter Road, yes, right across the street from the front door of the high school. I have 4 children. 3 have graduated from Longmeadow High School, and 1 is currently a junior. They participated in a variety of arts and athletic programs while here at Longmeadow High School. Since 1993, I've worked as a high school teacher as well as a high school administrator, and this will be my 24th year coaching at the high school level. In a couple of weeks, I will start my 12th season here as the girls lacrosse coach at Longmeadow High School. The girls lacrosse program was successful before I arrived. Since I've been here, I have coached about 24 U.S. lacrosse All-Americans and academic All-Americans. I've had over 50 players go on to play at the college level. Collegiate athletic programs from schools such as Curry College, Duke University, to Union College and Harvard University have all benefited from having Longmeadow High School student athletes attend their campuses. Coaches from UMass, Ohio State, Tufts, Trinity, Columbia University regularly attend our games. The girls lacrosse program has won somewhere around 16 or 17 straight Western Mass titles. I hope I just didn't jinx ourselves for this season. Each season we try and play not only the best teams in Massachusetts, but the best teams in the country. That's how we measure ourselves. I feel uncomfortable saying all of this. I do not like to boast. But today, I feel that it is important to note our success, and important to note that our success is a combination of factors. No factor more important than the support we receive from our school's administration, because it is there where our success starts. Without the administration's extraordinary support, we are just an ordinary program. 12 years ago, at one of my first games, I noticed Mr. Landers and Mr. Birdie watching the game. I thought that was odd. I now know that that is commonplace here at LHS. And it's safe to say that the players know when Dr. O'Shea is at one of our games. So I would like to say thank you to all the administrators for providing a platform so that all of our student athletes can reach the level of success that they do. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Nick St. George? Yes.
Hello, my name is Nick St. George, and I'm currently a physical education teacher here at Longmeadow High School. I've taught at Wolf Swamp Road School, and along with teaching, I'm the head football coach here at LHS. All in all, I've been teaching and coaching in the town of Longmeadow for 32 years. I've had the privilege to work with many teachers, coaches, and administrators in my time here. I'm here today to read a statement about my opinion regarding the leadership of Longmeadow Public Schools, the intentions of the coaches, coaching staff, the integrity of the administrators, and the culture of Longmeadow High School. First, the culture of the Long Meadow School District is a culture of success. Success measured in terms of hard work, success measured by students who excel in the classroom as well as on the athletic field. Success is measured by programs that teach life lessons and try to help adolescents be successful in the ultimate game of life. I measure success in wins and losses, but more importantly, I measure success in personal growth, level of commitment, hard work, and dedication. I tell my players that I am much more concerned about them becoming great fathers, husbands, neighbors, and contributors to society. Second, being an athlete at Long Meadow High School is physically and mentally demanding. We have programs that are consistently among the best programs in the state of Massachusetts, and maintaining that status requires that someone steers the ship. I do not deny the fact that I push my athletes to be better, and I do not apologize for being demanding. Coaches push athletes because we know what they are capable of. We push athletes to challenge their own perceptions of what is possible because it will help them to be successful in life. Over the years, I've received many telephone calls, letters, and emails from former players thanking me for my help. These are my favorite moments in coaching. Third, in my opinion, the coaches at Long Meadow High School are a group of dedicated professionals that truly care about students. The number of hours spent coaching in a season seriously challenges the notion of a part-time job. I am not perfect, and none of us claim to be. I know I regularly get second-guessed about decisions that I make, and I accept that as part of the job. However, you will never find a coach that cares more of their players than I do. I treat them like they were my own children. I'm not afraid to tell you how much I care for them, and I care for them as if they were my own. I celebrate their successes, and as much as I can, I try to be there to help them when they're struggling. Finally, I would like to talk about administration. I've known Marty O'Shea for over 20 years, and I've known Tom Landers and Mike Capitasso since they arrived here in Long Meadow. These men are career educators. They are fathers. They're committed to helping this community. They're dedicated to helping students. These men have the highest integrity and consistently make decisions with the sole charge of helping students. They force us to improve. We have no idea how lucky we are to have such strong leadership advocating for the children of Long Meadow. In closing, I am not sure that I can adequately convey how committed I believe this school is to helping students succeed. From the top of the administrative ladder to the last coach, we are here to help students reach their potential. In my office on the bulletin board, I have a list of 18 reasons why I coach. Some of them read, I coach you because I care about you. I challenge you because I believe in you. I expect your commitment because I know that your family and your job will. I hold you accountable because life will hold you accountable. I challenge you to compete because you'll fight some battles in your life where losing is just not an option. I do not know a coach or an administrator at LHS that does not feel the same way. I have signatures from 25 separate coaches and teachers here that feel the same way as I do. I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Ann Simons?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ann Simons, and not only have I been the field hockey coach here for 37 years, I've also been a teacher at Forest Park Middle School in Springfield for 31 years. Although our communities are very different, my expectations remain the same. Today's youth need to hear the message where we instill values such as being leaders in the school and on the playing field, being good citizens, being good role models for the little ones, and always giving back to the community. When they are on a team or in a club, they need to find their role and make everyone on the team better and work together for one common goal. I can honestly say that I am more than proud and blessed not only to work for one, but two great administrative staffs, great student athletes, caring peers who coach and teach right beside me, and parents who have supported myself and my colleagues as we take our job of coaching and teaching the youth of today very seriously. I just wanted to say thank you to the town of Long Meadow and to all those at Long Meadow High School for being my second family.
Keith Campbell? Keith Campbell here?
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keith Campbell, and I live at 40 Burney Road in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. I spent the first 19 years of my life growing up in Longmeadow, and I've spent the last 14 raising my son and daughter here. For 30 years, I've worked in the corporate world, and for the last 3, I've been lucky enough to be the head boys lacrosse coach, working with Mike, Tom, and Marty, who in my opinion have been some of the most supportive and committed individuals I've come across. I believe that what's going on here, all I can comment is from my professional experience. What we're trying to do, like most of the students and athletes on the boys lacrosse program, is our objective is to try to compete our hardest every day and show character and discipline. We talk every day with our players about how we think this will make them successful in college and their careers. All I can say is what we're most proud of in the 3 years that I've been part of the program with the other coaches is 80% of our lacrosse players on the boys program have used lacrosse with their academic success to get into the college they want. And 70% of them are still competing at the collegiate level. We talk to them about this being transparent into their careers. One thing I know is Longmeadow is a great place to grow up, but I also know with the current academic and athletic administration, it's the best place for all of us to bring up our children. Thank you.
Michael Baresi, apologize if I say that wrong.
Hello all. Thanks a lot for giving us an opportunity to speak. I first wanted to say I really appreciated all the comments that you elected to say earlier on in. I'm a parent, and we've heard a lot from administrators and from teachers, so I kind of thought it might be good to hear from a parent to really support Marty. So I just want to say, please know I hold high respect for your volunteerism to serve on this committee and your commitment to Longmeadow students. Being a parent in town of 4 kids across 3 schools, I am quite concerned over the turmoil surrounding Marty O'Shea's position. My concern is based on the prospects of losing who I regard as an outstanding superintendent, concern that is further fueled by a long list of emerging rumors running rampant across town. Why do I, a parent, feel Marty is an exceptional superintendent, you might ask? I have had the pleasure of interacting with Marty on a number of occasions, for both community and professional reasons. I'm a professor and biologist at Smith College, and as an extension of my work, I created a science outreach program called Student Scientists that helped teachers infuse new investigative hands-on curriculum into their biology classes. Since its multi-district expansion in 2010, my program has collaborated with 8 different districts that include Windsor and Enfield, Connecticut, Springfield, East Hampton, Northampton, Hampshire Regional, Greenfield, and of course, Longmeadow. My key point for mentioning this is that out of all of those districts I've worked with, Marty is the only superintendent that has taken the time to meet with me, to learn about the program, and to wholeheartedly support its inclusion in Longmeadow schools. Greater incorporation of active and problem-based learning is exactly where secondary education needs to be moving. He is the only superintendent who has taken the lead on promoting this. That is an example of how Marty demonstrates hands-on interest and earnest to promote innovative and active learning in this town. It is because of his support that we have been able to establish the best communication across the greatest number of biology teachers in a high school. So his involvement has not only enabled my program to take root in Longmeadow, but in fact flourish to a greater capacity than any other school that I've worked with. It is my hope that this comparative perspective coming from someone who is a parent, a scientist, and an education professional will make the committee truly contemplate their actions in this matter. In full disclosure, I'm also a school counsel, on-school counsel for Center School. I've only heard extremely positive compliments for his work and from the administration and teachers across all levels that I've worked with. My scientific training has certainly taught me to not jump to conclusions, and I mean that earnestly. Particularly, I am acknowledge that when I am lacking any information, lacking the ability to even vet the credible information getting passed down to, around town. But this is why I and many others seek the facts and demand greater honesty and transparency from this committee on this matter as soon as possible. I acknowledge the constraints you're under, but I urge you to, as soon as possible, come forward with whatever we can so we can, in fact, move beyond this issue. So as a citizen of Long Meadow, we are left to trust our elected representatives and not give in to the circulating rumors. Maybe there is a compelling argument for his resignation. The problem is that we have not heard it. We have not been given any objective data or information to help understand how we got here. I don't want him to leave. It's pretty clear the teachers and staff don't want him to leave. I'm pretty sure he does not want to leave either. So why does potentially the school committee want him to leave? I will leave you with a reminder of your own school committee policy, Section A, Foundations and Basic Commitments, the people in their school district. I paraphrase several parts, 1, 2, and 3 areas of that section, which involve the note of two-way communication. Public will be kept informed. I'm not sure that's happening here. In Section 2, it speaks of the main goal of optimal learning for our children. Whatever happens, the outcome better truly be in line with yielding the optimal learning of our children and not just satisfying any personal potential agendas. Lastly, decision-making, it states, should be in the hands of local citizens by maintaining active contact with the general public to ascertain the needs and desires of the community. This community member's desire for Marty to stay. Thanks.
Okay, Lee Venko.
Hello. My name is Lee Vanko. I live at 118 Eton Road in Long Meadow, and I have 3 children who have been tending the schools here since we moved here 5 years ago. One of the things I want to say first is, like many other people have said in this room, is that I love the schools here. I love the schools, I love the town, I love the community, I love the people. The district I came from prior to living here, I did not love so much. And so I'm very grateful for what it has given me and my family. The staff, the administrators who work at Blueberry Hill know me very well because I've done a lot of volunteering there in the time that I've been here. I've served the PTO as vice president for 2 years, and I've volunteered in the school in many other capacities, as a school mom, as a lunchroom volunteer, coordinating fundraisers, the list goes on. My point being that I know the schools and I care about the schools. I came to the meeting 2 weeks ago where all the teachers came and attested to their support for Marty O'Shea. And I have to say that I was really impressed because I know from being at some meetings in the past that there hasn't always been synchronicity between the superintendent and the staff. I've been involved in some of those disagreements, and it was just great to hear everyone here talk about how much they love Superintendent O'Shea. So I'm not arguing with that, and I'm not arguing with all the great things people have said about them. I'm only here because I just want to bear witness to who this committee is, because I know many of you from being in the trenches with you on this side of the room. Many of you got up and spoke about transparency, and I know, and I can attest to the fact that you all want transparency as much as this audience does. And I know if you could be, I know you would be. I know you're not because the laws forbid you to. And it's hard for me to keep hearing people questioning why you're not saying more, why you're not revealing more, when you just stood here and said why you want to. Nobody wants to be in this position. Nobody wants to be questioned. Nobody wants their intentions to be questioned. I really felt compelled to come here tonight because in social media and in community emails, I've seen this committee accused of serving their own agendas, accused of going rogue, accused of doing a railroad job on us, and accused of having no moral compass, no integrity, no character. And I know that's not true about these people. I know that. And I know many of these people in this room have acknowledged that. I do. But there are some people in this community who are not. And I just think it's completely unfair for them to question your intentions. Because why would you put yourselves in this position if you didn't have to? And this is not me not supporting Superintendent O'Shea. And this is not me supporting all the teachers and administrators here who know me well and who I care about, I think, so highly of all of you. This is just me telling the community, not a lot of people here because you've been so respectful, but the people in the community who have not, that these are parents, their kids are in the system, they volunteer a ton of time to be here away from their families, and I know, just as many of you already have said, that they care greatly about what happens to our kids and what happens in our schools. That being said, I would at least ask that the people in the public who have been smearing their character stop doing it. Because as you can see, Ms. Grodsky here, this has been very hard on her, and this shouldn't be the situation for any of these members. So thank you for your time, thank you for your commitment, and thank you for doing the best you can to keep this an open process.
I have next Matt Flanagan. Sorry. No problem.
Good evening. My name is Matt Flanagan. I am the chair of the Business and Technology Department at Long Meadow High School. I have had the privilege and the honor to teach in Long Meadow for 15 years. It's a terrific, terrific community. I really enjoy the students. I say to some of my kids some days, I can't believe I get paid to come in here and do this job. It's absolutely terrific. And it's certainly been disconcerting over the last couple of weeks what's been going on. I'm sure for you, obviously, we've heard that from many, many people. But certainly at the last meeting when it was announced by the vice chair that Dr. O'Shea had submitted his resignation, people in the community said to me, well, why? He must be doing something. There must be something. And people I would talk to that know his character said, I don't get it. You know, there has to be something out there. And there was rampant speculation out there. There was rampant rumors. There's been rumors about Marty. There's been rumors about the school committee. Rumors about, negative rumors, as the previous woman was alluding to. Whether they're true or not, that's out there. And I think I understand what you're saying about the, you have to, in executive session, you have to protect the rights of the employee. That's terrific. But I do think that, we expect our students to do the best they can. And frankly, I think we expected better out of some of the school committee members. And what I mean by that is he has said he has done nothing illegal and nothing immoral. I get it if there's disagreements. Disagreements are healthy for you to grow. And if it's something that he's just not doing right with his job, then that's great. But I do think that a statement could have been made to say there's nothing criminal against this guy. And maybe it can't be, but for the people I've talked to about this have said to me, yeah, they could make a statement just basically it's something that we're philosophically having difficulties with, not with his character, because his character has suffered over the last couple of weeks, and it's not fair to him. For 25 years, he has built his reputation in this community, and people who know him think the world of him. They think so highly of his integrity, and I just think I get it if it's something that is. We want to go here, and you're bringing us here, and that's not the direction we want to go. That is your role as the school committee, certainly for you to do that. But I just think that a statement could have been made if there's nothing illegal or immoral being done, and that has not been done. We could maybe agree to disagree on that. But I just think it's unfair. It's unfair to him. It's unfair to his family, and it has really affected the morale in the district as well. I appreciate your time, as other people have said. It certainly was a difficult job being a school committee member, and this is a very difficult situation for you. So I do thank you for sitting in on that, but I just think he deserves better. I think he's put his heart and soul into this district. If you have philosophical differences, so be it. But I just think his character has been taking a hit, and that's not right. Thank you.
Russ.
I mean, I don't mind saying that it's nothing illegal. It's also not philosophical differences. So it's issues we need to address, but neither of those two things. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Roxanne Bigliotta Awad.
Okay, good, because I could not read the thank you.
Long enough for you?
Yes, thank you.
I am both staff and a resident of the town of Longmeadow. I've lived in the town for 18 years, and 16 of those years my kids have been at school. And Dr. O'Shea is the only superintendent I've seen at choruses, plays, band concerts. I've seen him on his knees playing with kids, walking up this high school, having conversations with students. And I just, I feel I'm repeating myself with what everybody else is saying, but he's very approachable to our students of every single age. And that's really important in this day and time, that he is approachable, that he is that high up and a student can go up to him and talk to him and know that he's going to make time for them, that he takes time away from his own family to be at these concerts and plays. Is amazing. On the other side of the coin, I am staff. I've worked for the school district for 10 years. I wanted to share that I recently met with Dr. O'Shea in a personal situation. And after that was covered, he had to bring up the elephant in the room, which I was quite surprised, and that was my position was being cut this year. Basic Skills Specialist Unity at the high school. And I was so touched by his compassion and his empathy that it overwhelmed me for a little bit. And that's the type of superintendent we need. We need a superintendent that's not looking to avoid uncomfortable situations, that they're bringing up the elephant in the room, that they're going to look you in the eye and face anything that they need to face, even if it's showing compassion and empathy that your position's getting cut. And that's really important, because I would not have brought it up or said anything about it, and I would have left the room. But he still thought it was important to bring up. So I just wanted to make sure I said that tonight. Thank you.
Elizabeth Antonopoulos.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Antonopoulos, and as we all know, there are many rumors and much speculation surrounding Superintendent O'Shea and the school committee. As a concerned parent and resident of Longmeadow, I'd like to fully understand the reasoning behind these executive sessions and the grounds for possible dismissal. However, I do realize there is a process. I would think that if the superintendent's actions were illegal or unethical, he would have already been let go. Yet, as was clarified tonight, that is not the case. However, these closed-door sessions have been taking place for months, and whatever the issue may be, it still has not been resolved. At the February 14th school committee meeting, and again tonight, it's evident that the superintendent has the support of the teachers, administrators, and the staff of the Longmeadow Public Schools. As a parent and taxpayer, I've heard nothing but positive remarks and seen nothing but a stellar evaluation regarding Superintendent O'Shea. Each and every interaction that I've had with Dr. O'Shea, from his well-crafted emails and open communication to the community to showing up to welcome back students on their first day of school, have been heartfelt and genuine. It's obvious that he cares about our children, our schools, and our educators. At this point, community members are being asked to have faith and trust the process. I, for one, believe that those closest to the work make the best decisions about it, and therefore I put my faith in the town's educators who avidly support Superintendent O'Shea. The current school committee policy states it best. Education is a shared responsibility of the school and the community. And it also states that open and honest communication is critical to our success. It is in the best interest of our students in public schools that such impactful decisions are not made in a vacuum, and therefore I ask for as much transparency as possible in this process and a swift resolution so that Dr. O'Shea and the school committee can continue to focus on our students and our schools. Thank you.
Kelly Degnan, or Degnan.
My name is Kelly, and I am a behavioral assistant at Blueberry Hill School, and I am a resident of East Long Meadow. First and foremost, allow me to thank you, members of the school committee. This job is not easy. I do not envy one of you. I do recognize that you are doing your best. And that being said, I am here to support Marty O'Shea. I came to this district as a student in 1996. Sorry, Marty, that was a long time ago. I came here as lived in Springfield at the time, and I was here as a student, and I had Marty for a teacher, sociology, I believe. And we met in the open space at the old high school, and he made learning fun. I was not a great student, I admit it, and here I am teaching, but I loved his classes. I looked forward to them. I looked forward to the passion that he had for what he was doing and what he was teaching. He is compassionate about his students. He interacts with them, but he also interacts so well with the staff, the other teachers that he interacted with, other students, the other staff in the school. I have worked in other districts, and I have never met anyone with the passion that Marty O'Shea has for his kids. They're in, and I say his kids, I know they're not, but as an educator, I feel like all the kids I work with are my kids, so I am now lucky enough to work in this district. I work at Blueberry Hill, like I said, and when I heard Marty was the superintendent here and I was offered a position, I jumped on it. I did not want to miss out on the direction that I know he has for this town. I was a substitute teacher at first, and now as a behavioral assistant. I knew that he had a dynamic and inspiring direction, and I wanted to be a part of that. Dr. O'Shea has guided me through constant emails, contact with staff and teachers. He really cares about what he's doing. And I believe the outpouring that Dr. O'Shea is receiving should speak volumes to each and every one of you. We want him, and we need him in this district. As an employee, I feel more than simply for myself, but that our students deserve Marty O'Shea. He is an amazing educator, leader, and mentor. He has an amazing vision for this district, and we want to see him succeed. We need to unite for our staff, for our parents, but most of all for our students. Recent events in our nation will show everyone involved that we have bigger fish to fry. This is small peanuts. We have safety concerns that we need to be focusing our attention on. And I understand there's probably issues that we can't talk about, and I get that. We don't see eye to eye. There's going to be bickering and squabbling, but we need to come together. We teach our kids every day to be kind. That is a huge part of our curriculum this year at Blueberry, is being kind. And we tell our kids to embrace others' opinions, and just because they're different opinions doesn't mean they're wrong. It means we have to come together, we have to work with them, we have to join with them, understand. Work hard. That's what we're telling our kids, and we need to show them that, even right now in this meeting. Our children deserve our unconditional support and focus. And right now, the question I have is, what does the direction of our district look like with Marty O'Shea? And I believe that it's a strong future. We owe our children that empowering and inspiring future. So please join together, build bridges, mend relationships, put aside any animosity that you have for one another. We need to live what we teach our children every day, and that is to come together regardless of the bad feelings that you have. It is essential that if we are going to move forward as a district and as educators at Long Meadow Public Schools, I do not, like I said, I don't envy the job that you guys have. I was involved in public politics for a while, and let me tell you, those were some really dark days. It was difficult, but you have an amazing town. And I stand with Marty O'Shea, and I think I speak with for most people in this room. I believe he is a man of integrity. I believe it is obvious to me and my fellow educators that he is a man who truly loves what he does and does it well. for the sake of our staff, for the sake of our parents, but most importantly, for the sake of our children. We need to put away any negative feelings and animosity and be a united front, a united district. And for me, united means with Marty O'Shea.
Gina Pantusco.
Hi, my name is Gina. I am a mother with 4 children in the district, 3 of which are at Center School. I also was a former teacher in the Hampden-Wilbraham School District. I recently wrote a letter to the school committee, and Miss Manna went and stole my word that I used when describing Dr. O'Shea, and the word was present. I don't think I could pick the previous superintendent out in a lineup. Dr. O'Shea has been at so many different events for our children, and I am thoroughly impressed by his involvement, his commitment to the kids, and my husband and I completely support his efforts as a superintendent. I realize the school committee cannot answer questions, so I'm not going to take that approach tonight, but I do have one question for Dr. O'Shea, and I'm just wondering, if possible, could you please tell us why you resigned?
I'm happy to take a shot. I mean, the question is, why did I resign? And I think I guess I appreciate the chance to address that. I've had close friends and colleagues ask me that same question. And I think the short answer is that I felt that there was no other option, that there didn't appear to be at the time, and perhaps things have changed, I hope they have, but at the time there didn't appear to be an appetite for any further conversation moving forward. And again, I would like to reiterate that decision to submit my resignation, which I hope the committee will consider other options and consider a different path forward for me. But that my decision to resign was not to avoid any public scrutiny or public review. It was not because I felt that there was any matter that would bring shame to me and my career and my name. It was not because there was any matter that was a violation of law. I felt at the time, and I still feel, that the concerns of the committee, while important and while they need to be addressed, that I felt at the time that they could have been addressed. And so I welcomed that chance to have that conversation with the committee. And so it's a fair question that my closest friends and colleagues have asked me, and I would say at the time I felt like there was no other option. And I'm hoping that there is another option at this point, and I'm hoping I have a chance to have that frank, open, honest conversation with the committee, recognizing that they have real concerns, recognizing that we all can work and grow together, and that's what we're about as a learning organization, and that's what I hope to achieve.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak that hasn't spoken in this room? And if there is anyone else in the overflow room that would like to speak, please come down now. I'm going to just wait a minute and make sure that there's no one in there that would like to come speak. Okay. I will close down the visitor comments, seeing that no one else would like to speak. Okay. And we are going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Hello, this is Russ Duperre. I'll be running the meeting for the next few minutes. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. And there's a recommended motion on the agenda.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to February 14, 2018 school committee meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
I just had one change.
Oh, sure.
Under school committee announcement and recognition. Sorry, Diane. Thank you. I just looked back to make sure I was accurate with my change, but I just wanted to ask that it says, so Ms. Hutchins thanked all those who spoke, and then cross out all of those who were present for coming, period. And then I said, it means a lot to hear everyone's experiences and all of the good things that are going on in the district. I just wanted to make sure that was in there too. Thank you, Diane.
Okay, so could we have another motion as amended?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
So I move that we approve the minutes from the February 14th, 2018 school committee meeting as amended. Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. We already did school committee announcements. We don't have any business with guests. So the next item is ongoing business athletic fee discussion. And that's,
Actually, Russ,
sure.
before we jump into that, I know most of the room is left, but you guys know me. I love to talk about our student athletes, and just under recognition, we do have, Greggy, you might even include this in your student report, so I apologize, but I always like to acknowledge the accomplishments of our student athletes, and our girls hockey team, which Longmeadow took over the cooperative a few years ago, hosted their second playoff game in 2 years. They've moved up to Division I. Sadly, they suffered a 5-4 loss, but kudos to those girls and their coaches. Our boys basketball team is advancing to Friday night. I think they play Belchertown. And so many, I have to say it because so many coaches came in tonight and spoke about our student athletes. And our boys hockey team is in Western Mass semifinals, and they play tomorrow night at Olympia at 6 p.m. versus Ludlow. So anytime anyone can come out and support our student athletes, I feel that we should. Thank you.
thanks. So Tom, I assume this is, you want to start?
Sure. So I think it was maybe 2 meetings ago, there was in the packet some information related to the athletic program, and Finance Sub reviewed some scenarios where with the increase in the money that was proposed for FY19 and how it potentially could be used to be allocated against certain sports, with some proposals to either increase fees in certain sports and reduce fees in certain sports. Some of the direction I think that Finance Sub was looking for was to go back and also look at other scenarios. Are there ways to maybe look at costs associated with our program and ways to help reduce the burden that participation in athletics puts onto families, but without compromising our offerings, the integrity of the programs. So we did talk a little bit tonight. Mr. Capatasso and I met a number of times to talk about different scenarios. One of the options we looked at was reducing the number of games that each sport or some of the sports might play, and what implication that would have in terms of the total cost for the program and how that would translate into the user fee. We looked at transportation. Currently, for FY17, it was about $65,000. But if you were to eliminate that or reduce it, it creates other hardships for student athletes and their families to get them to different events. So those are just some of the ideas that we were kicking around. I don't know that there's anything that we can come up with that won't have some detrimental effect on the program. And so I think I was hoping to get some direction as to what the sentiment of the committee is and where they want to go in regards to user fees for athletics. Is there a desire to make some change? Is there maybe a status quo with the additional funds that were included in FY19's budget? Do a better job maybe advertising, the ability for people to request a subsidy to the fee. So I'd put that out there, I guess, Russ, for discussion.
Yeah, so the only other thing I'd add is Finance Subcommittee. We also said another option, which doesn't help the budget side, but we could look at some of the sports that have high participation rates and maybe low cost and lower the fees for those sports without affecting the other athletic programs. So we could do that. It'll add to the kind of budget mismatch, but probably not dramatically. So I think Tom's going to look at that too. That's another option that's kind of out there. I kind of prefer that one, actually. Not really a perfect solution, but I think that's really at the heart of the matter, are those particular sports. So potentially we just look at those more carefully.
So Russ, you're saying one of the biggest concerns is that those high attendance sports with low cost. So we're talking like track, cross country, things that where they don't have to necessarily rent a space, and that's really the crux of.
Yeah, I think
what
what
we're
we've been hearing is that maybe some of those sports in some ways subsidize some of the other sports that cost more. And I think what Finance Sub has talked about is, even if that's true, if you want to offer hockey or football, you can't charge parents $2,000 or whatever it might be to actually pay for that entire sport, because you won't have a football team or you won't have a hockey team. So part of a public education, especially in a town like ours, is try and offer kind of a wide variety of sports. So our concern was, if we go too far with the amount of the fee to actually cover the full cost of that program, you could end up ruining that program or eliminating the program. So it's not an easy, it's not like a company where you can just say, well, that one is losing money, so we're getting rid of it. I mean, it's a program that we want to have, all of those programs.
So I heard, in terms of our fees are high, some of the highest, I think, in the state. And so do we have a sense of what percentage other communities are taking from the budget to subsidize their sports versus asking for it from the parents? Because I don't think, this proposal is really continuing to rely on, and granted we're in the budget season right now, is relying on a set amount for families to contribute to make these sports happen. But what's the difference? Why are we so high? Are we taking that low a percent from the budget to support sports?
Well, Tom, I know we looked at that, but I think some other towns do cover the complete cost of the salaries, and we don't do that completely, but we do cover the basic program. So it's not that, the kids aren't going to have equipment based on our budget amount. We pay for the coaches and the equipment. It's just we might not be paying for everything that this team might want, is kind of the way it's been framed to us.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think based on the increased amount in the FY19 budget, we'd be short by about $50,000 to cover the total cost of coaches' salaries. That number obviously fluctuates from year to year based on postseason participation, but based on FY17's salary costs and what we have proposed for FY19's budget, we'd still be short. I think one of the pieces Russ mentioned is that we looked at a lot of surrounding communities, and many of them fund the entire cost of coaches' salaries in the general fund. We do not. So up until this year, we only had $75,000. So we were well below the $230,000 or so the coaches' salaries run annually. So it was putting a much larger burden onto the fees that we're collecting from participants.
Right.
The other thing that we talked about at Finance Sub is there's, we have a good program, as Beth was just saying. So, half of the teams, maybe more than that, are going to playoffs. They're extending the season, and you don't have that in a lot of other towns. So, because of that, we're going to pay more because the teams are good. So that's part of the equation, I think, too.
But we're pretty far off in terms of how much we take from the general fund to fund. We rely on these fees pretty heavily.
Except we've added I mean, including in this budget, I think if we do that another year or two, we'd look pretty good with athletics. It's just you can't do it all at once because we don't have enough from the.
But we're only off by 15,000?
50.
Oh, 50. I'm glad I asked
Yeah,
you because
to
I didn't hear what
cover-
you said over
That's
here.
just the
It's
coach's
weird having you
salary,
guys
though.
on this long run.
It's different.
50.
Yeah, 50
Okay, so
to
we
cover
would have
the
had to
coaches'
have
salaries.
added 80 total
In
in the budget.
For next year, we would have had to add another 50 to the 30 that was proposed. So yes.
And that's just for the coaches' salaries.
Right, just for the coaches' salaries. And I did want to add that, it's hard to make decisions like this and have these discussions in a vacuum without parents here. And the best conversation I've ever heard about athletic fees, frankly, was a high school PTO meeting or PAC meeting. There were a lot of parents there, and they're really knowledgeable. And I wonder if you, Tom and Marty, might be able to meet with parents and get some feedback from them about their thoughts, because there's a lot of concerns and they have a lot of ideas, good ideas, strong feelings, and I really want to, I'm not certain that sort of coming to our meeting would be the most comfortable way to get that direct feedback. I think maybe we sort of go to them, it would be better and very effective in terms of helping to direct our conversation. If that's something you might be able to coordinate with Principal Landers.
Sure.
And then if parents knew ahead of time and they could plan to be there specifically to discuss that issue. That would be amazing.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments? Sure.
Oh, is that me or?
Yep, you.
I think I agree with a lot of what's being said. I think it's in our best interest to address the fees specifically. I think that's a concern of parents out there. Some of the ideas, it's hard to have discussions about this because most of it takes place in finance sub, and if you're not on the finance subcommittee, it's hard to communicate your ideas. I know Tom and I have had great conversations about the athletic program, and I've bounced ideas off of him. He shared information with me.
Yeah.
So it's so hard when you're all disconnected and you can't, I guess I could submit something to be looked at finance sub, but I do think we need to look at reducing some of these fees, and I agree with Russ. It's better than reduction of games. It does a disservice, actually, I think, to our athletes and doesn't prepare them when, I will say, quite a few of our teams advance to playoffs and our championship teams. And transportation is a nightmare anyway, because some of the teams get buses, some don't, and then you're putting it on the parents to drive. So I don't like those options. But I do think we do need to take a look at fees and change some of them. I think some of them are much too high. I think we need to look at participation. And I think another thing I've mentioned to Tom is coaches' salaries in general. I think we need to look at I think an untapped resource for us is Springfield College. I feel like or even the club level athletics in the area. I feel like there are so many just out of college or in college suitable coaches that we can bring in at a lower starting salary and really benefit from the programs at Springfield College and our local, club lacrosse and AAU basketball and competitive soccer teams and try to get some of the younger coaches interested in mentoring with our coaches and getting involved in our programs.
I'd like to also just say on the Tom's comment about advertising the subsidy for the fees, I would like to do a little better job of that or have it out there a little bit more. I know I attended the fall one at the high school and was hoping for it to be mentioned. So somewhere I'd like it. I wouldn't want someone not to be able to participate because of the cost. So I just want them to know it's out there.
Tom, is there any other employment situation in our district that we are, we're employing people, but we're not paying them? I'm referring to these coaches who are being subsidized or paid for through user fees. I don't think there's any other situation like that, right? Where staff is being subsidized or.
I mean, preschool, we do have a tuition that we pay, and it does offset the cost of services directly associated to the program, salaries associated to the program.
Okay.
I mean, back when we had kindergarten, that was used to offset the cost of staffing, but that no longer exists.
Right.
I mean, not in terms of staffing, we do charge a bus user fee that offsets our cost to the contractor, but
Yeah, I
preschool
think.
is the only one I can think of. Tuition, if we do receive tuition payments from a out-of-state tuition student, which we've had in the past, that's been used to offset salaries also.
I think from a management standpoint, it concerns me having employees who aren't receiving their paycheck from our district. I have a lot of concerns about that, and it was something that was brought up in that meeting I referred to earlier.
Yeah, I think that's not really the topic that we're dealing with tonight. I think tonight we really need to give probably some more clear direction to Tom in particular about what do we want to do with these fees. So I think, in my opinion, we need to look at this year probably lowering the fee of those sports I just referred to. I would say next year, which I won't be here, but the committee probably should be looking at adding some more money to athletics. And eventually, if you do that another year or two, you can lower all the fees. But I don't think, I mean, we had some input from one parent, I think only so far. I'd certainly welcome more input from parents, but I think at this juncture, we really have to be able to move on with what are we telling Tom to do?
Do you have a sense of, I know there were volunteer coaches and sports needing requests. Do you have a sense of what the requests are for next year, or is that a moving target with how many coaches will be needed for particularly the non-cut sports where it is that moving target and they don't know how many coaches? But, you know, do you have a sense, because they had volunteer coaches that weren't paid, and I know they needed those. I know that buses weren't covered. So I do agree and understand, you know, lowering the fee and how that makes sense. But I also want the other side of what are the needs that were not met this year, and what are they going to be for next year? Because those are big ones where you're paying a fee, but you're not getting what you feel like you should be.
I don't know that I can give you an answer on our needs based on staffing. I mean, as you indicated, participation most certainly can drive it. And I think I can also add, we also shift a decent amount of support over to our boosters. So we talk about uniforms, and they have been great partners in providing us, you know, support for things that we haven't been able to provide for, at least in the timely manner or the cycle that they would like. So, I mean, there are other expenses that even putting $50,000 into the budget to cover, I mean, that money will get eaten up quickly, even if we didn't reduce the fee. So I don't necessarily have an answer for you, Stephanie. I don't know that we're really seeing a decline in many of our sports in terms of participation level. I'd say, if anything, some of those are growing. One of the things we did talk about are there club activities we could look to create where the costs are much lower, that don't have the same pressure and commitment that an MIAA sport does. So that was something we kicked around in finance sub also.
I think with the, and I'm particularly thinking of the non-cut sports because they do grow.
Mhm.
And then you have a set amount that you dedicate to that sport. Meanwhile, you have double and triple participation, and then you have that set amount, and then you can't add that coach. So I think in terms of some sort of equity, can you, you know, when a certain percentage or something of the participation, especially on those non-cut sports, when you get so high, can we figure out a percentage that we would dedicate so they can get the coach that they need? And I think that's really was a big issue that was.
I mean, we
brought
could
up.
transfer money if the request came to us, but I think that's a separate, that's really, we need to work on the policy as far as how do we allow volunteers and when. And
Well, not so much that, but how do you
but-
pay, when they request a coach and they need a coach, but you've only set, so much money for that sport. But then the participation has increased double what you anticipated.
It
Do
would come
we
back
need
to
a
us.
policy?
No, it would just come back to us as a committee. Just like when we had a teacher, we could have had a coach. It's just, we haven't done that.
I think I would like to see, and maybe some policy written where, because I know how important those non-cut sports are and that we have one each year and that we have some sort of policy or something written that we're committed to that, and that if it has grown so large that you need another coach, that you'll come back to the committee.
Right.
Because I think that is one wonderful thing that we offer are those non-cut sports, one each year, and I think they are growing tremendously, and I want to make sure that we're supporting them. And so that's where that one question came up by the parent, was that it had grown so much and they needed another coach, and then
Right.
they're looking for it for next year, but they couldn't get it this year.
Right.
So that's, I guess, my piece on how to look at that, and I don't know that we have a handle on the actual amount and how to, but I think the athletics is it's not an easy answer, but we're looking for a quick answer right now for the budget, so.
And just a quick response, some of those non-cut sports, they grow after cuts are made in other
They
sports.
always do, yes.
So then, to go hire another coach, we're going through a posting process, and so you're, a month into the season now, by the time we get somebody cleared through the hiring process. So it's not always that simple, and
Right.
so it is a challenge.
I think they pull, a lot of them seem to come from staff who volunteer
Yep.
their time.
Still have to
Because
post.
they've gotten them, but they've been volunteer and have
Yes.
done it on their
To
own.
support the
Yeah.
students.
So, I guess, back to the fee question. Does anybody, have anything they want to add? Any other direction for Tom? I mean, I think it's, at this point, I just gave him some direction, but I don't know if we want to give him.
Tom has a very long email from me, and we've chatted about this, but I'd also like to add that I think I'd like to see more consistency when we talk about a user fee, a booster club fee, and then saying that booster clubs are paying for uniforms. That's sometimes not the case. You're paying a user fee, you're writing a check to the booster club, then you're paying for a uniform, and then oftentimes, or sometimes, you are asked to pass the hat at the end of the year and pay for a volunteer coach. So what started out as maybe a small user fee
Right.
has now ballooned to
Right.
potentially over $300. So
Right.
I think we need to be fair to parents, that we can't expect parents to just keep opening their checkbook or running to the ATM. We have to be consistent with our policy. If the booster clubs are paying for uniforms, every booster club pays for the
Right.
uniforms. If they're not, then parents need to expect that they're paying for, there's no consistency across the sports, and I think that's a hard thing for parents too. So
I agree
just
with
something else to
everything.
consider.
Beth, I agree with everything that you just said. The way that you outlined it, also. Exactly.
That's probably the most important part, but it's the policy issue, which, we need to deal with, but it's not what we can deal with tonight, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with that. That, in my opinion, is kind of the biggest issue. It's not the fee itself.
And that's why I think, you think about the fee and lowering it, but it really is because it's affecting across the board and everything. The parents are shelling out in all those different ways. But, yeah, I think it's the amount of the fee. I think it's the feeling of inequity, for sports who are charging a certain amount, but not getting what they need. And I don't have a great answer.
It's just a large, complex problem.
So you're looking for just how much to
Well,
include in the budget?
You acknowledge it's a large, hard, complex problem. Just to say we want to look at fees without really what you want me to do. What do you you want to reduce them across the board? Are you willing to reduce or have it have a detrimental effect on the program? I can't do both. I can't not have a detrimental effect on the program, but at the same time reduce costs for participants.
Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, no, I just want to ask, why over the years has not the correct or appropriate amount of funds been allocated for athletics if this has been a repeated problem? Why do we not have that in the budget? I just really don't know. That's why I just don't know why.
Yeah, I would say part of it has definitely been the increased cost associated with the programs. I think Beth mentioned that girls ice hockey, the cooperative was taken over by the district. Increased cost of both facilities we rent, salaries for the coaches, officials, all of those costs have increased, and user fees haven't gone up, the allocation hasn't been increased, so we've had increasing expenses associated to the program, but no changes in the revenues. So what we've been doing is at the end of the year, at the end of the fiscal year, we basically have been increasing through the expenditure process the amount the general fund has been carrying. So it's been done after the fact. Once the books, basically all the charges have been recorded, we would transfer off of the athletic revolving account to the general fund whatever amount it exceeded the revenue that we took in. So really the general fund has been supporting athletics well beyond the $75,000 that has been budgeted. But it continues to be a challenge. I think we're just catching up to with the money that's been appropriated in 18 and 19 to the point where we're breaking even. What we're talking about isn't even taking on some of these costs that Beth alluded to that have been carried by the boosters. So to talk about now reducing some of the revenue without how we're going to replace it or what we're going to sacrifice in exchange for that, it's part of the challenge, I get faced with when you ask me to look at reducing fees. I'm happy to do it, but we can't reduce fees without some sacrifice or some alternative as to where we're going to come up with the revenue. Whether it be additional resources from the general fund, that's fine, so long as the committee is committed to doing that in 19 and 20 and 21.
I think if you see consistent patterns or certain percentages that these costs are going up each year, it seems like we would maybe be able to, project or predict better rather than always going kind of in arrears.
Yeah, some of the challenges are adding staffing as participation grows, some expenses associated to programs that might be one time as we have large equipment purchases. We've been supporting those both through the athletic program and through the general fund that, you only see them once every 5 or 10 years because you can last that long, but they exist and we just don't have a replacement cycle really in place that our current allocation can support.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we can have some sort of analysis of all of the sports, and I know we've gotten the numbers, but to look at the cost of, say, one set sport and what the percentage of running that sport is coming from user fees and what percentage is coming from the general fund, and see that across the board. Because I'd like to see that for each sport, what percentage is coming from user fees and what percentage is coming from the general fund. And
Sorry.
I think that for me would give me some starting point in terms of policy, some idea of equity that I'm hearing from parents in terms of sports. And just an overall general sense of how these things are being funded. I think that if you were to give me any information, that's, I think, what I would like.
Right. I think the breakdown that Tom and Mr. Capitasto gave us, basically, it's very clear which sports are losing money. It's not a secret. The bottom line is we don't have enough money in the budget to fund all the sports.
No, I don't think that
So
part. I'm looking from it, from the parent perspective of paying the user fee for a sport that doesn't necessarily cost that much to run.
I think we have that information already for you.
I think, but did you break it down by the percentage? I think we have the numbers, but if I could just get the
Percentage, I could add a column and give you that breakdown.
just so I can
Sure.
look at each sport and see how much is being funded by the user fees.
Sure.
Because then you could tell how to move that user fee a little bit better.
And then that's dependent on the assumptions that you make and how you apply
It will
the
be
general
like you could
fund.
do it on
Yeah.
past year, like last year.
sure.
Because those user fees were set up so long ago, I think they were really arbitrary. I think, I don't know how they came up with them, and I do think they deserve an analysis of, they really are just pulled out. At this point, they're pulled out of the,
My recollection, if I could, I think at the time, they were developed to reflect supporting the cost of the program. with the 75,000 the general fund was providing. But they date back over 10 plus years now, and they haven't been looked at.
Right.
And we most certainly have increased both the programs and the number of participants. So it's, I think, well past due in terms of detailed analysis. I just don't know we can say we were going to change user fees without understanding the impact it could have on the sport.
I think it was more a feeling of equity. And then also getting an understanding of if we're going to keep adding the amount from the general fund. Yeah, what are we looking at?
So I'll make a motion that we,
Karen has.
oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask a quick question. So we're looking at now, for tonight's purposes, just whether or not we want to change user fees to reduce them. We're not talking like specifics at this point, right? We're just talking about either change user fees, reduce them with possible detrimental effects on the programs, or
Well, it's really.
keep them as they are?
Last time we had those different options, remember?
Mhm.
So Finance Sub kind of looked at those again today. None of those options seem very good. I mean, you had some user fees that were going to be like $900 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it was really, do we want to accept one of those, or do we want to do something else, or leave it as is? So the motion I was going to make is to have Mr. Mazza go back and look at those low-cost, high-participation sports and see if we can reduce them to some extent that's reasonable and determine how much that would cost, and then bring that back to the committee. Then we can review that.
So you're saying without then having a potentially detrimental effect on,
Without raising any of the other fees. What it means is we'd have to find it in the budget somewhere else to
Got it,
fund the
okay.
difference. That's why I want to see how much that would be.
okay,
to
only
do that.
because I just want to support the sports programs and
Right.
say I would prefer not to have a reduction in games or a detrimental effect.
Yeah,
on
that's
our-
off the table.
Okay,
Yeah,
just wanna be
that's
And
not.
Russ, I don't know if, from the parent input, if it was so much, I think the complaint was the amount of money that's across the board between boosters and user fees. But I think in terms of the user fee, was the complaint really that the cost was too high, or we're paying this and we're not getting what we need? You know, we have all of these participants, we needed another coach and we didn't have it. So was it really that they wanted the user fee?
The thing I've heard the most is that people feel their sport is subsidizing another sport.
Right.
That's the most
The
common thing I've heard.
equity
Whether
piece
that's
of
true
it.
or not, I don't think that's clearly shown necessarily in the data. But I think some of it is maybe. That's the most common thing.
That's why I was asking for that percentage. So if you have one sport that's almost paying for itself, and then you have another sport, I mean, if you have an equity across the percentage, that the user fees are
And you're
paying.
saying that's not difficult to put another column.
I don't think so. If you're talking about the percentage of the total cost for the athletic program.
For each sport?
Yeah, for each
Yep.
sport, based on how much of it is user fees, how much is general fund. Again, I
Yes.
think Marty mentioned the assumptions we made is that the general fund is spread out equally amongst the programs, not based on a participant level, but on the
Okay.
number of programs we have. So, I mean, that was the assumption, I think, in what we made for FY17. So, it's manipulation of a spreadsheet, so no.
So that the
shouldn't
general
be too
fund
high.
is spread across evenly, and then the user fees are,
How much came in by each particular sport?
but then
Boys,
it's.
girls.
Yes, but then the question is that money used for that sport? It's used all over. So that's why I want to see those percentages.
Yeah, I mean, the money goes into a fund.
Right.
I don't put it into a boys' soccer
Yeah.
fund. It's in an athletic fund.
And that's why I think I'd like to see those percentages, just to get a sense.
Sure, I can do that.
So is there a second or?
Second.
Can you clarify the motion?
Yeah, so it would be to request that Mr. Mazza put together information for us that would lower the fees of the high participation, low cost sports without affecting the other ones, and let us know what that would cost.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
No.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? What was that?
think that was everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I couldn't
Yeah.
see everything.
Yeah.
I don't.
No. Where were you?
Administrative reports.
Oh, you finished everything? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's going.
Administrative reports, superintendent's report.
There's a written report that's been provided. I will, in the interest of time, just hit a few of the items. Certainly, security and safety is on our mind following the shooting tragedy at Stoneman Douglas. And I was pleased that Chief Stankiewicz, Chief Dearborn, joined me in writing a letter to the community that identified some of the protocols that are in place and some of our collaborative efforts to keep our schools safe. And I thank the school principals for following up with the staff and the community on some of the important things that are happening at the school level. I think we all agree that the important thing is that we create school environments where kids feel valued and connected, and along with all the security measures, we believe that will go a long way to keeping our students and staff safe. I want to mention that, in case anybody at home's interested, there is a national school protest scheduled for March 14th, and so our administrators are working proactively with their student bodies to kind of support student voices on this really important topic. And I see Breggy over there. I attended a meeting that Principal Landers hosted for a number of about 30 or so concerned high school students. And so they talked in really productive ways about how to support the students that were interested in expressing their views on this topic. So we'll keep you posted on that. We're still sort of trying to gauge student interest in that and think about how we can conduct that safely and productively for kids. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. But it's even playing out at the middle schools. Principal Guile, Principal Allen are working with the middle school students, and even at the elementary level, I think, reminding students providing students with those reminders of how public safety officials keep us safe, and reminding students to, if they see something, say something. I think those are the important messages that we're reinforcing. So I wanted to hit that one in depth, but just quickly, Special Programs Committee is hosting Dr. Ned Hallowell, March 6th, Tuesday, March 6th. Dr. Hallowell talked to us about how we can maintain balance in our otherwise very busy lives. Townwide choral concert, Wednesday, March 14th at night. So I'm pleased that we have our school committee meeting in the daytime, I think, on March 14th. So that will allow us to get to that townwide choral concert. Mass Kids we're hosting a speaker from Mass Kids, in fact, the executive director of Mass Kids, and that's on Monday, March 26th. That's an event for parents and for the wider community. And the idea is that we're bringing the speaker in to kind of help us all understand how we can talk to kids about their personal sexual safety. So that's Mass Kids, Monday, March 26th at 7 p.m. at the high school. We'll get the word out even more about that. Michelle mentioned how proud we are of Bryn Cartelli, who I appreciate Diane explaining to me how the voice works. I've never seen the show, turning chairs around, and that was, I was amazed at her presence and her range. I'm not anyone who knows me knows I don't know much about music, but it was really impressive to see her performance on The Voice the other night. So we're all so proud of her. That's it. Town report. I think did we provide a committee a copy of what we submitted to the annual town report? Shouldn't be any surprise. It's probably a compilation of some documents you've seen. And the Niche website recognized us once again as the 18th best school district in Massachusetts, and in the top 2% of school districts nationwide. So that's a pretty cool report, and it's a good way to celebrate all the great work that's going on. That's it. Oh, and Diane would remind me what we'll need to bring to you at your next meeting on the 14th of March is the middle school SOI. So I just wouldn't want to understand whether you want to get the middle school task force back together to review the submission before it comes to the committee as a whole? Or would you like the submission just to come to the committee for your meeting on the 14th? So it's up to you guys whether, we gotta reconvene that task force to give us some direction or to review the SOI, or would you rather us just roll up our sleeves on it and make the adjustments and improvements to that SOI and bring it to the committee as a whole? We just didn't want that to, thanks Diane for keeping that, and Tom for keeping that on our radar screen.
Is there anything, we're not going to change anything major. I mean, we were just updating, things that we may have fixed in the last year, those type of things.
Yeah, I think there'll be any new capital investments that we've made. I think we'll take another look at the story that we told. I think, maybe heighten the importance of some of the safety and security statements that we made.
So I think we spent a lot of time last year on it, and I don't think that much has changed, so it probably makes sense to just expedite it, get it to the committee.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Then we got to get to the select board.
Yeah, and due date on it is April 6th,
April 6th.
with MSBA, so that's why.
Do we need to vote again?
Yes.
Once it's finished, we have to vote on it.
Okay.
So any.
So let's
There are
fast
gonna be
track
changes.
that then,
Yeah.
Because it'll
and
have to go to select board and they have to.
so whatever changes you and Tom feel are important, and, let us know before the meeting, obviously, if there's anything
Any
glaring,
right.
and, yeah.
If you need us, we'll meet, but we'll assume
Yeah.
that you don't, and.
Yeah, excellent. And I wanted me to mention Read Across America at Blueberry. They're celebrating the theme of celebrating a nation of diverse readers. So they might stick a cat in the hat on me and have me read to some students on Friday. So looking forward to that. That's it.
Thank you. Tom, do you have a report for us?
Oh, I like to be brief, so keep it short. So we have started a food share program. I think it came out of Food Service Advisory at our last meeting. We are partnershiping with Rachel's Table to establish a donation of items that students do not consume during lunch, to put it on a table that any student can either take or will be stored and get picked up on a weekly basis. So the first pickup was Friday before vacation. We're going to try to get it to become a weekly pickup at all of the schools. So working with the administration and Whitson's to get that off the ground. The food service bid has been released to the public. February 22nd was the date it was made public. There is a mandatory pre-bid conference on Friday that I'll be attending. Deadline for submission is Friday, March 14th. And then we hope to have presentations to the review committee on March 29th to bring forward a recommendation to the school committee sometime in April. Working with the custodians, there was an implementation of a flu protocol procedure just for cleaning, hitting those areas that are touched frequently by staff and students to try to help reduce spread of the flu. So we started that back at the end of January, and the process for hiring a director of facilities is ongoing. First, second interview are still taking place. Hopefully, we will have a candidate selected who accepts the position very soon. So I'll keep you abreast. Just one last update on Wolf Swamp. They did start the installation of the flooring. We had hoped it was going to be completed during the breaks, but it does not appear, based on the prepping that is necessary to install the carpet and the flooring. It's going to happen during those two periods, so it's probably going to carry over into vacation, summer vacation. So there's a few rooms that unfortunately won't get done until June, just based on the time it took. I believe 3 rooms were completed during February break, and there's still probably at least 10 or 12 that still have to be done. So, but that's probably the last piece of the restoration from the flood. That's it.
Thank you. Sue?
Yep, I'll try to be quick as well. If anybody is a history buff out there, they can check out the draft of the history and social science frameworks on the DESE website. And it's a public comment period right now, so you're able to go in and give some comments. The link is in the the note here that I wrote to you. It is pretty significantly changed, so if you're familiar with the old frames, the new ones are different. They will require us to realign and buy new text eventually. Probably not next year, but potentially the year after that. I don't think textbook manufacturers will be ready with a new text by next year for that. But along those lines, the Foreign Language Department at LHS has been busily exploring new text, and they've got proposals for most of the French text. They're doing their best to buy just a set and have students share those instead of trying to buy text for everybody. They'll get an online version as well that will be helpful. So right now, just with the French text alone, I think it's missing one, maybe honors. We're at about $38,000 for that. And we still have some other text to come in with prices, but people are working on those. This is really interesting. We haven't had a lot of chance to dive into it. About Department of Ed is looking pretty closely at the equity of student placement. So they're comparing student placement over the last several years as to where they're placed in classrooms, and seeing if students who are marginalized are placed more often with teachers who have lower experience, or who are rated needed improvement or unsatisfactory, or have more than 10 days of absence. And there is data that we have looked at. It's preliminary for us. I'm going to a workshop at the end of March, I think, to learn more about that from the Department of Ed, but I think it will be interesting to take a look at where we're placing students and see how that affects student success. So Desi's doing a lot of data stuff these days. Let's see. Tally Branson, I don't know him, but he's allegedly an actor, came to visit LHS. He spoke with the Diversity Club, and all the students were invited to attend. He's a Springfield native, and he was here to promote diversity, and I think himself as well. I think he was doing a biography, so we had a photographer coming around with him, but that's kind of cool for students. Wellness team met. We got to talk to them about growth mindset. We all took a quiz to see where we were with our growth mindset, and we're surprised to find that not all of us embrace that in all areas, so that was interesting for us. I don't know if most of you probably know Jen Falcone. She came to visit the wellness team, and she had a really good, really frank discussion with the W team about child sexual abuse awareness. She's a huge advocate for that. I think Marty already mentioned see something, say something. Any chance you have to get that phrase out there for our students, our parents, everybody, that would be wonderful. Elementary teachers are continuing their report card work. They're getting a dose of standard-based grading PD coming up. We're working really hard on that. We had a little bit of a struggle trying to figure out this PD day for elementary because we're staggered with ending dates, and we cut PD days in half, but we're doing our best, and principals have been really generous with after school time for providing PD, so thank you very much. Let's see. March 8th, we have PD, but many of our staff, almost all, will participate in an online training in child sexual abuse prevention. We've been, Marty and I have been pretty enmeshed in that whole kind of stop abuse kind of awareness, and we're learning a ton. Some of us have already taken the online training, but I think our goal is to have everybody, almost everybody at least, trained by March 8th. It's an hour online training class. I think Marty is going to share, if he hasn't already, the link with all of you if you'd like to take the course. It's pretty good. It's very eye-opening. Along with that, we have Jenna Bernier coming to speak, Marty already said, and then she's going to come back again next year to talk to our staff on a more personal level about this. So that's been really interesting for all of us. Revised medical bus routes began this week. I'm not going to tell you they began so smoothly. They're working out the details and the bugs, and hopefully that will come together by the end of the week. I would say maybe 5 days of ride. Hopefully it comes together more smoothly. And then Marty already spoke about Read Across America. Dr. Seuss, Blueberry Hill, Friday. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I have already done most of my chair report. The only other thing I need to ask the committee is we need an alternate or assistant clerk to help us with the minutes sometimes. So I'm hoping that somebody here could come forward. It would be mainly for executive session and just again, as a support person, I was back up this time for the last couple sessions, but I would love it if anybody else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
And Reggie.
So, just going off of what Dr. O'Shea said, there's a national there's a national movement of protests on March 14th, and a group of us high school students would like to attach ourselves to that, and we sent out a survey, and approximately around 250 kids said that they would be interested in doing some sort of protest, which would be a walkout. And we talked to Mr. Landers and we talked to the rest of the administration, and they said they can't condone it or they can't encourage it, but they would make sure it goes safely and they do everything that they could. So the survey, around like 100 kids said they'd not only be interested in doing the walkout, but like be interested in making signs and being involved with that. So hopefully we can get that running, and we're coordinating that with administration and our class leaders. And the survey has been distributed through like all like text and social media, so it hasn't even like reached like everybody it can reach. So we like to get that going.
And I just got to congratulate the students for how they're approaching the issue with such maturity and sophistication and kind of understanding what civil disobedience sort of looks like. So it's a great teachable moment that we want to embrace.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased with how you guys have handled it and how you're working with the administration on it. And we did talk to Long Meadow Police today about having a presence for us if any students are outside the building on March 14th. So.
And that's, I think you mentioned that the middle schools, there's been conversation there too, just in case something.
Yeah, so we're trying to understand how that might shake out at the middle school level, or how it might take shape. So we talked briefly about it today at our administrative meeting, so I think we're still doing some sort of reconnaissance on that to understand.
That would be good.
And same thing, in sort of developmentally appropriate ways, we want to support student voices on that issue. Yeah, it's different for high school kids than it is for middle school kids,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to echo my, I'm impressed with how the students are handling it, and I also want to echo to the administration that I appreciate you not condoning it, but having the conversation with our students. I think it's a wonderful way to get our young kids politically involved, which is what we need to see, and it's how change happens, so congratulations.
And I think as you find out more information on this too, we may want to consider something, or Marty doing something to make sure that these kids are not penalized. We have a pretty deep penalty at the high school for cutting classes, so in terms of grades. So we may want to think about, I don't know how you do that if you don't condone it, but we may want to think about having something said where.
I think the students understand that there wouldn't be penalties associated with it, assuming that they're acting safely and orderly and that they're kind of working within whatever expectations or parameters have been set. So I think that communication has been really clear. But, yeah, we agree with that. I mean, it's
No Super Bowl celebration.
That's it, right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, frankly, I've been doing this a long time, and I haven't had the opportunity to work with or observe students involved in a walkout. So it's kind of interesting.
I agree with you, Marty. I think it's such an important teachable moment, and especially watching these kids who are coming forward in the wake of the trauma that they just experienced and speaking up is so moving, and I think it's incredibly inspiring to hear that our students want to participate in that. I think all the support we can possibly give them is super important right now, and for Longmeadow to be making that statement by its students it makes me feel very proud of them and of our community. And like Karen said, that you are working so closely and Tom Landers is working so closely with the students to make sure that everybody feels safe, because I know these kids want to feel like they're doing the right thing at all times. That's how our kids are in Long Meadow. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Anyone else for Greg?
So the students who don't walk out, they stay in class,
Yeah.
participate? I mean, did you get any feedback?
Yeah, it
Any
would
other
only
feedback
be.
on your survey
So, out of the survey, only 3 people said that they wouldn't be interested. So, for the kids who don't want to do it, of course, Mr. Lander said that they'd have something to do. It's only 17 minutes. So I think to do it, for us to like get everyone outside or into the gym, depending on what we do, and get everyone back, it will only take like 25 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. for 17 minutes on the 14th, right?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay. Let's see, we'll move on to our subcommittee reports, Finance Subcommittee. Tom?
So yes, we did have a busy night in Finance Sub. We did review a number of the fees for next year. The first one on tonight's agenda is the preschool. So your agenda indicates that our current tuition is $2,000. We looked at how much revenue the program brings in, and it's anywhere between $50,000 and $60,000 each year, depending upon the number of students. And I think sentiment was to keep it where it is, based on the number of fees that families encounter through the school district, never mind just, cost of today's families. We thought that raising it was not probably the thing to do at this time. So there was a recommendation of Finance Sub to keep it at $2,000 with a $50 discount if it's paid by August 1st, paid in full.
Okay.
Rob?
So I move that the school committee set the preschool tuition rate to $2,000 and offer a $50 discount to families who make the tuition payment in full by August 1, 2018 for the 2018-2019 school year.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay, great.
The next item we considered was the tuition rate. So the law allows for districts to take in students from out of state, and it allows for the district to charge up to their per student expenditure amount. The amount listed on your agenda of $14,385 was the 2015 Long Meadows per student expenditure amount. We currently do not have any students here through the tuition program. It's been a few years, I think, since we've had a tuition student. The recommendation from Finance Sub was to increase it up to the FY17 figure, which just came out yesterday, of $15,248.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee set the tuition rate for the 2018-19 school year to $15,248.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
And we had 2 other fees for consideration tonight. The first is the high school parking. The current charge is $30. We bring in approximately $4,000 or $5,000 a year. If you recall, I think it was in FY17, the committee authorized, I think, $48,000 out of the parking fee account to be used to offset expenses the DPW incurs in maintaining the parking lot. So looking at that, I think we felt that even though there's plenty of spaces, to keep the fee the same. So the recommendation was to not increase it and keep it at $30 for next fiscal year.
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
Please.
I move that the committee maintain the parking fee at $30 and the busing fee at $235.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
You did jump ahead of me on the busing there a little bit. Which is great if you want to revise it to add the family cap of $470 for the busing.
Oh, yeah.
So,
With a family cap of 470.
for the busing fee, so.
Should
So
we
then I
vote
need-
on that, or
yeah,
is
I need
it?
a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seconds to the amendment.
Wait a minute, who did what? Who said what?
So why don't we just do separate motions? Why-
His motion was for the busing fee.
Okay.
So
Just make
Why don't
another
we
motion.
Just let me seconded
So I
that.
did both.
He did do both.
Oh, he did both?
He did the parking and
He's
busing.
fast.
You
I'm trying to be efficient here, but
You
this is not
started it,
working.
Russ?
You could still do a motion for the cap, can't you?
So why don't
We could do another one.
let's just do another motion. So I move that we maintain the parking fee at $30 and the busing fee at $235 with a maximum busing fee of $470 for a family.
Second.
That's good?
Yes, that's good, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay.
We had a building use request, so there is a request from the Long Meadow Police Department for use of Glenbrook Middle School for an active shooter training on April 21st and 22nd, which is a Saturday and Sunday. This is something that we partner with the police department for members of their force and state police to come in and, one, they get familiar with the layout of our buildings, gives them an opportunity to train in terms of their response. So I think we're happy to, hopefully with your support, to offer them that opportunity to use Glenbrook during that time. Beth has a question.
I have a question before we, well, or do you want a motion and then a question, or you want? No, go.
Maybe a question before
Okay,
the
okay.
motion. Do we cycle through the buildings to get them experience in different buildings? Because my concern is the layout at Glenbrook is just so much different than our other schools. Do we give an opportunity at all the
It's a
different?
great question. Yes, we do.
locations? Okay.
It's been a while, which is why Glenbrook is selected for this year.
Perfect.
I know they've done Wolf Swamp, and
Okay.
I believe they've Center and Williams. Yes.
Is that a weekend, the 21st?
It is.
That's
It's a
what I said?
Saturday and Sunday, and by policy, school committee has to authorize the building use.
Fabulous. Okay, that's a relief. Thank you.
Can I also, what does this look like? Like, are they, I'm just trying to get a sense if there's games going on that weekend up at Glenbrook. Are they just inside?
They're just inside.
They're not running around.
They're not-
The
no.
kids are on the field
They're,
being,
they're
okay.
not. It's all internally. They
Okay.
actually invited administrators to come and participate, which I know a number of our administrators have participated in the exercises in the past to kind of understand their response and what they go through.
Okay.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the building use request for the police department to conduct active shooter training on April 21st and 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Bless you.
Bless you.
All those in favor?
Better than joking on
Now we need them to do the flu cleaning over here.
Russ, forget about my spot here.
Priority next to Diane.
Most of us would not even notice that.
Thanks.
Okay.
The last item that was discussed is a request for, it's $1,100 to support a presentation. I think Marty and Sue both have mentioned it. For March 26th, the community presentation in regards to sexual abuse prevention, the speaker to come in and speak. So it would be something we would charge to our community engagement line. We've exceeded the appropriation, so I just want to have the school committee authorize this expenditure, and at some point later this fiscal year, I'll come forward with a request for transfer of funds.
Okay.
I move that the school committee authorize the additional expenditure of $1,100 to fund a parent community speaker for Mass Kids for a program on March 26, 2018.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Okay. We'll move on to the policy subcommittee report.
So policy sub met this morning, and first we discussed the substance abuse verbal screening requirement. Shelley Warren came to speak, also Paul McNeil from Close and the nurse from Williams Middle School. And both Shelley and Paul expressed being in favor of implementing the screening. What they would like to do is have the policy, they're in favor of having the policy written so that it can be rolled out next year in the fall. We're going to need some training in place, and there's some turnover in staff, so they felt like it's late in the year now. It would be good to have the policy set, and then they can then take it from there and roll it out. So Paul supplied us with some good materials in terms of policies that Northampton had used and he had taken part in, as well as a letter to the parents. So we're going to be reviewing that all in our next meeting. We also discussed, we had received a letter from a parent. We reviewed the school admissions policy. This was regarding when there are two parents who have joint custody and they live in town within two different school zones, and addressing that in our policy. And it looks like it would be best addressed in our attendance area policy. So we'll be bringing that back to the committee when we meet again. And then the last,
With a recommendation.
with a revision, with some sort of, we're going to review the policy and see how we could revise it to possibly address this situation. I also need to contact Diane to find out what the history has been when it comes to school attendance areas. So right now, we don't have a policy. It is up to the discretion of the superintendent. When it's working the same way as if you wanted to go to another school, essentially, out of your zone school. But it's a unique kind of situation where you have two parents who live in Long Meadow, but share joint custody, and each one lives in a different school zone. So do we leave it up to the discretion of the parent as to which school do they attend Blueberry or do they attend Wolf Swamp? And are you comfortable leaving that to the superintendent's discretion, or should the parent have discretion over that? So I think there's a little more information we need to gather. I personally feel like I can't see a reason why you couldn't leave it up to the parent's discretion when they're in town, they have residence, and they have joint custody, and the houses are just in two different school zones. So I don't know if you guys want to talk about that now, if you have any thoughts as we move forward to review it next meeting.
We should wait until you.
Okay.
bring it to us.
Okay.
I was going to say, are we allowed to just give like one or two comments quickly, not deliberate, or should I, because I've been wanting to offer my input, but haven't because.
I think so.
Or should I wait until?
I mean, this is really a policy subcommittee report.
Okay.
So we don't have any, probably be better for you to come with a recommendation of the subcommittee and administration, and then we ask potentially at that point.
Why wouldn't you be able to offer it right now, though, since it's like we give input on like Tom's reports?
We had motions on
Because there's a motion?
the agenda for
Okay, sorry,
those,
no motion.
But,
I would like to know what you think.
I mean, I don't think it really matters, we're not voting, but if we all gave our opinion, you'd,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. So is there any way you can get your thoughts to us?
Well, I wanted to be able to come for your visitor comments portion, but I wasn't able to get there.
Okay.
I think I can do it, if you were having visitor comments, I think I could speak at that time.
Okay.
Because it would have been
Or
posted on the
Diane
agenda, but I
can-
can, yeah.
Yeah, Diane or I can compile any input that the committee has on this. You have.
And then bring it to our,
Yeah.
our meeting. That would be fantastic, because I'd like to hear what you have the thoughts on that. The next policy that we talked about was the homeschooling policy. And so we had all received a letter from a parent regarding a request for her homeschool child to participate in athletics. And so the policy itself, we are continuing the discussion. We have several issues that have come up. One of them, our policy right now is the same as MASC's, and it's, the homeschooled applications are, per our policy, are accepted or rejected by school committee or superintendent. But right now, our practice is not following that. So we have looked into whether we can change it to have it follow our practice, but it does not appear to be within the legal parameters. So we have a lot of adjustments, I think, to make on that. So we're going to work on the policy. So specifically, this parent was there. So right now, we have our Director of People Services accepting and rejecting our homeschool policy. This has been a practice that's been going on for years. And before the current Director of People Services, and this has just been the practice. So we were looking into whether we could continue that practice. In some ways, it made sense. But it does not appear to be in compliance with the law. We received an email on that today. So we can delegate to the Director of People Services, but and then they can provide a recommendation to Marty in the school committee. But the ultimate sign-off has to be either Marty or the school committee. So we need to align our policy with our practice on that. We also have in our policy that which is again the same as MASC's, that says that we would, a student may receive a diploma through, a homeschooled student may receive a diploma through the district if they're compliant, if they meet all of the, I would have to look at the actual, if they meet the requirements. We're not doing that. I'm not sure how we would do that. We have to look at that. And then for this parent, I'm sorry, it's really quite a policy that we're going through, but this parent's request to have her son play in athletics as a homeschooled student, the issue is quite, I don't know, it's quite complex in terms of our policy, but we made a motion and voted on it if you want to hear what the policy subcommittee is bringing to you with respect to that student. And so,
okay.
So, and I don't know if I need to read it verbatim, but we're comfortable, the policy subcommittee is comfortable allowing homeschooled students who reside within the Long Meadow School District to participate in extracurricular activities as stated in our policy IHBG. The policy subcommittee will be revising policy to include MIAA's eligibility requirements that the student would be subject to. So moving forward, the policy subcommittee, we're in favor of homeschool students being able to participate in extracurriculars, which would include athletics. I think that Marty wanted our policy, and it should be a little more, it should include what that student would have to do in order to be eligible to play those sports. And that is really all under MIA guidelines. So right now our policy says that they can. In order to do that, they have to meet MIAA requirements and eligibility. We're going to outline what those requirements are. And so one of them includes an ed plan on file. And right now, we don't have ed plans on file for kids 16 and over because they don't technically have to be in school. But if we're going to have kids who are older participate in athletics, we would need to treat them as if they're under 16 with an ed plan that's approved and everything else that's under the MIAA guidelines. And I could send you that sheet, but going forward for that particular parent's request, the policy subcommittee, and you can jump in, is in favor of having students be able to participate as long as they meet those eligibility requirements of the MIAA.
So you guys approved their request in your meeting?
We cannot approve an individual's request. This is more general of where the policy is going, policy sub is going with our, right now our policy says that they can participate. So that's what we have on file, but it seems like that is not the practice that's been happening. So, but our policy states that they can, and we're going to revise our policy to include MIA's eligibility, so everybody knows exactly what they would have to do, and the staff here knows that they would have to provide an ed plan, and everything else that falls below
So
that.
without getting into the student's particular situation, I think I've got enough guidance to work with the family.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah, I'm just
And we have a
concerned.
separate agenda
there's an
item for this,
agenda,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's an
so this
agenda.
was really just the report from Policy Sub, but then we'll handle that one particular thing that's in the agenda today, which we're now talking about, which is fine, but we have, it's
Oh, is
later
it
in
on the agenda?
Oh.
Yes, yes. It is on, towards the end,
Before the field trip.
in new
request.
business.
Overnight.
We're still just in subcommittee reports.
Okay.
But
No.
it's on page 5,
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
so we'll get there.
Oh, you wanted that recommend, for that specific, I didn't know if we could actually do that, so, so I was just talking in terms of.
And that's what I wanted from
okay,
Policy Sub News
From
now,
policy,
yes.
where we're headed
Yeah.
with that policy, and that,
Perfect.
yes, we're in favor of that. Our policy currently states that we allow it, but we're going to revise the policy to be.
So are you gonna make a motion when we get to that agenda item? That's what I wanna know.
I don't.
Let's hear feedback on that particular agenda item under that agenda item.
Okay.
Does that sound? Does that make sense?
Yes.
yeah,
That-
say it again.
We're waiting for the other agenda
Okay.
item, which I want to get to someday.
Okay.
Yeah, let's hold on that, but you gave your overall.
Okay, so yes, it's, that's where we stand with that.
Okay.
And so we will be addressing, that again when we meet, and as well as the other policies I mentioned.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Operation Sub did not meet. Is there an LPVEC report?
No, I wasn't able to attend because we had our meeting at the,
How about SEAL?
they have a meeting next week.
Okay, and Food Services, we have a meeting coming up, and you gave the
March
update.
22nd, I think.
Yeah, and you gave the update on the food service contract, so, okay. Moving on to new business, school choice discussion. You have information in your, on the school choice in your packets for Long Meadow and area communities. You're also, let's see, we also have the financial information and current enrollment in our packets. We have a recommended motion that I would love to start with, Russ.
Yeah, I move that the school committee accept students in the school choice program for the 2018-2019 school year in the following grade levels and number of seats. Grade 2, 3 seats at Center School. Grade 3, 1 seat at Blueberry Hill School.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Discussion.
I would, I'm fine with this motion, but I would like to also have it as, the school choice discussion. There's a piece of it that, I want to bring up with the MECO discussion, as far as seats go. So I'm fine with this motion, but I just want to, I have a question about MECO as it relates to possibilities within school choice.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
I just have a clarification on the memo we received that was the overview for school choice. So it provided on the DESI, it provided language from the DESI website verbatim, and it said, it talks about school choice tuition and the intention of how it's used, but there was an omission of the next paragraph in our memo, and I'm not sure why it wasn't in this memo, but there's a whole nother paragraph that said, that started with the sentence, if a school committee does not need to spend tuition revenues on direct services for education, it may use those revenues for other expenditures that enhance current educational programs for students. So, and my understanding, and it goes on, there's a lot more, but my understanding is that we've used the school choice fund to fund different initiatives in the district over the years that are outside of specific, you know, not always directly specific to the choice students that come in. So I just wanted to clarify that. Is that making sense, Tom?
Sure.
Okay.
I didn't include it just because I didn't know that how we spend the money was going to be really a question. I would agree with you. I don't think the money that comes in is actually used directly for school choice students.
Right.
I would say, to your point, it's used, one, for some staffing, but then there are other expenses, both programmatically from a supplies and materials perspective,
Right.
and/or other initiatives that we don't necessarily have the funding for, that we then rely on school choice to support. So I think it just wasn't included. There's more information that I just kind of picked and cherry-picked. I thought that were appropriate to the discussion in regards to the slots, not necessarily how the funds are used. But to your point, yes, that is accurate. We don't use it for school choice students specifically.
Right. Did someone already make the motion or not?
Yep.
Oh, okay, I couldn't remember. Yeah, so I mean, it's no secret that I've always wanted to, look more closely at our school choice program. I think it's worthy of more scrutiny in terms of potentially bringing more kids in. The schools don't have a lot of opportunity to raise revenue. And this is one area where we do have an opportunity. And I think, I do feel that it's incumbent upon us to, take that responsibility when we can generate revenue in ways that are not going to disrupt or diminish the educational services that we offer our students in our district. And, we've been very, very successful in the past at doing that. So I'm not opposed to your motion tonight. I just want to say for the record that I do continue, and I say this every year, to hope, that the committee will look to consider expanding this program more than just the few seats that we're offering this year.
Melanie?
Are those numbers fluid, or how do you come to the conclusion, like this year was 3? If you look over time, it has decreased, almost about half?
Yeah, actually, we just talked about that in finance up too. Probably the biggest driver is enrollment and whether we'd have to add a teacher.
Mhm.
So these are additions to grade levels that we think we wouldn't have to do that.
Okay.
So it's kind of class size, looking at, if we add too many in one particular grade, and actually pretty much all the grades are pretty tight. So we've been looking at class size, and then if we add too many kids, because if you add a staff member, then your school choice doesn't actually work out that well for you.
Of
because
course,
it costs
yeah.
a lot more than $5,000 per kid.
Right. So it can be
So-
fluid, but it looks pretty consistent.
Yeah.
And maybe the.
Well, and I just learned that the old policy was that it was really high school level only, so now
Right.
we don't do that anymore, which makes a lot more sense in my opinion, but, so that's the basic reason.
Yeah, I would say I think the philosophy has been we've been accepting 4 students at the elementary level for the last probably 8 to 10 years in my time here. So that's kind of, I think, in keeping with a consistent both revenue source, but looking at where they where they would fit in terms of not creating stress in terms of class size.
The other thing I'd add, and this really was part of the METCO conversation, is, I've said this before, but in my opinion, it probably makes sense to have one middle school at some point, and the enrollment is a very important part of that, because if enrollment's too high, then you probably still need 2 schools.
Yeah.
So it's kind of looking long-term, is it a good idea to really bring in a lot more kids? Because I don't think it would be a good idea to have a situation where the middle school is now too big for one school.
Right.
So there's a lot of factors that we try to.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion to accept students in the school choice program for 2018-19 school year, the following grade levels and number of seats? Grade 2, 3 seats at Center School, grade 3, 1 seat at Blueberry Hill School. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. And we'll move on to the METCO discussion. You also have, you should have packets of information, program overview, finance information, including grant revenue and grant allocation. Is that all in the packet? Yes? Okay. Current enrollment and distribution.
I just want to make sure what I have from online, because I don't have my packet printed, I take it online. I just want to make sure I have everything that you have. This is what I have. Is there anything other than that?
I think that's it.
This one is just the old
Does it end with
page
a recommendation?
document. So
Yeah,
4-page
no.
document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
METCO.
The one that started with school
Yes,
choice? Okay,
correct.
and that's all. All right.
Yes.
We have a recommended motion.
I move on the recommendation of the administrative team that the school committee accepts students in the METCO program for the 2018-2019 school year in the following grade level and number of seats. Grade kindergarten, 4 seats.
Is there a second? Second. Your second today. Any discussion? Stephanie?
So I had sent an email requesting information and I didn't receive it, so I'm just wondering if that information is being collected or where we're at.
So I think for today, we were mainly talking about the number of seats and stuff. I know we do have we have this on our agenda for our next meeting too, that's when the program information and that sort of thing was going to be uploaded and given to us. I think there was some question, I wanted to make sure that we had all the information that you had requested or that.
So we're looking to vote on the seats before we have the information?
Yes, only because we have the program overview at our next meeting. That doesn't mean that we have to vote today. So if we were not comfortable and we didn't have enough information, we could wait.
Can we
Is there-
combine it with the next meeting, this?
We
Is there
will
any
have
plan-
it at the next meeting.
But the vote, like, I don't think it makes sense to vote before the programmatic review.
Tom and Sue, I think we can wait. I don't think, I don't know when would,
April has been the lottery over the last
Okay.
few years, but they are trying to push it sooner than that. I haven't heard that they are going to. I think it's still slated for April. I can double check, but
But March
I would say
14th
March
would be
14th would be
safe.
okay.
Safe,
I'd say
yeah.
so.
So that would be more comfortable to have those both on the same.
Russ?
So what information are you looking for exactly?
So I had asked for a lot of information because I'm looking for an analysis on this program, and I'm going to just be frank, I'm really frustrated. Because last year, we had this discussion on March 28th, we made a really detailed motion, and I have received no information, and I'm going to read you the motion that we made. So Mr. Clark moved, seconded by Mr. Dupre, that the school committee accept 5 students at the kindergarten level through METCO program and ask the administrative team to provide a report next year examining, underlined, all aspects of the METCO program, including staffing implications and financial implications in Long Meadow and recommendations to make it better. The report should contain regional and statewide comparisons of similar programs, and Ms. Sandra McDonald, METCO Assistant Coordinator, should report to the school committee next year. This was March 28th when we were faced with the exact same thing we have before us. We made this motion for the specific reason of not being in this position again, because we had committed to METCO and looking to expand the program, and we needed this information. So I have emailed. I will tell you that we brought this up in September when we talked about METCO and asking for feedback and what have we got from families and really looking for that information. And the little bit I got was that there was a little Q&A and that there was some feedback from families on transportation and that it's a long route, but that they haven't heard anything in the last couple weeks, and now things are running better on the bus route. That was September. I followed up and just followed up to find out, what's going on with METCO. That's when we found out that these kids were on the bus for 4 hours every day, over 4 hours every day to school. So we made this motion last year to get this analysis on the METCO program, to find out how it's running, where it needs improvement, any problems that we have, how it compares to statewide. And we're back in the same exact position we are in last year with no information. I sent an email back, I got nothing. We talked about this in the beginning of the year in the fall, I've had nothing. We got to a point where kids were on a bus for over 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. These are children that we are bringing in from Springfield for the specific purpose to bring diversity and to decrease racial segregation, and we're putting these children of color on a bus for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. We talked about this last spring. We talked about it in the fall. I emailed asking for data. We're in the exact same position we were in last year. So I am frustrated.
Russ?
So I think we need to coordinate the way we're asking for data.
But it was a motion. It was a
No, I
specific
know,
motion
but
that we
then,
made.
and which I think I'll fully admit I forgot about, and I seconded the motion. So it's a good point that it didn't happen, and
But
we
I
should-
also, we brought it up in the fall. I've also emailed for the
Yes,
information. We've
but-
talked about MECO.
but, Stephanie,
We've asked for this.
Okay, but my point is this. When the information requests go in, and I'm not disagreeing we need the information, but I think we need to coordinate how we're asking for information. So if it's, one of two things need to happen, really. I think that request can go to Michelle, and maybe it did.
It did.
not
I'm sorry.
Getting into that, but I think then the chair needs to make a decision about whether that request goes to administration, and we expect, the response.
It did.
Or whether the whole school committee votes for it.
But we did vote, and it did go to admin, and it did go to Michelle, and I've done everything. That's why I'm frustrated. And we've had this discussion, and we've talked about MECO, and I've asked for the evaluation, and we voted on it unanimously. So because I really, if we had what we had voted on, and if we had given this the attention that it needed, we would not have had, and I don't know, honestly, how long that's been going on with that transportation issue, and I'd love to know. Because in order to make a program work, you have to know how it has worked, how it's currently worked, and where the problems lie in order to improve a program. So we had committed to this program, we wanted to expand it, but we needed that information, and we made that motion so that we would not be in the same spot. So I am frustrated because every time that I ask for the information, I'm met with resistance. And we brought it up, and it's been on the agenda, we've spoken about it here. I just could not believe when I heard the length of time those kids were on the bus, and we talk about achievement gaps and bringing kids in for the MECO program in kindergarten because we want them to thrive, and where are they coming from, and yet we expect them to thrive when they're on the bus for 4 hours a day. And thankfully, to everybody's credit, that has been fixed when that was brought up, but that should have never occurred.
So I'm sorry, because I know that you sent me requests for the information, and I also forgot about the motion. I want to make sure that we get this fixed. In the motion, was there anything that wasn't in the motion that you would like for information, just to start with?
Well, I think that
I know you've probably emailed it,
But where are we with the information request? Right now, we're just asking administration to put together. Is that what you authorized so far?
I'm sorry, I'm confused. It's on the agenda for next week. I think that I need to know exactly what the information is, and I think the motion has that information, and I know I have a recent email from Stephanie with, I don't know if it's the same information, but you told me everything in an email just recently.
And I can, verbatim, watch the video from March 28th and write down what the motion was, but it was specifically asking for examining all facets of the program so we could make a recommendations of ways to improve it for the future, and also for this very specific reason of determining how many seats.
So wait, okay, so between the motion and your email.
I will send you an email.
I have them both. Okay, wait, sorry. Go
I
ahead.
have the email with the information that I was requesting because we didn't get a report. So I wanted that information. But really, I should not be taking that data to create this analysis. That should be done, the motion wasn't for me to do it. I can do it, but that's why I wanted some information coming into this because we did not receive a report.
So let's hold on the vote for the number of slots or we can hold. There's a motion and a second on the table, and we can decide whether or not we want to take it. But for now, I know that I can gather the information that you've already given me that you've asked for. What I think that would be helpful for the administration or whoever's going to be compiling that, could you just clarify, let's say what the goals are in getting that information? So are you looking to find out if the busing route, did you want to, I know that I asked that question, let's say, for finance sub.
So if you're going to evaluate a program, you have to know how it was operating and how it went wrong in order to improve it. But, so that's why I was looking for historically, where did that go wrong? Has this been an issue with the busing? Has it taken place over a series of years. And if it has and it continues to change each year, then we do need to figure out a way to not have that happen again. And there's different ways to do that. But then also all of the other data, we had made the motion to review this program, to make it better, and to analyze financially how many seats we could offer. So I think the best way, it was a really detailed, involved motion that was made. It was long. And I'd be happy to write it out verbatim for you for it. I think it's...
We'll get it from the minutes.
Oh, I don't think it...
Well, the video itself it actually is.
Yeah, no, what I'm trying to... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What I was trying to do is focus on, can administration get it for the next meeting? Is it a reasonable amount of information that we can compile quickly, put it together, have a reasonable conversation next time? Because I just don't want to, each request we make, there's a certain amount of effort that's going to go into it.
Well, that's why the motion was made last year.
Can I say
I
something?
understand that.
Do you want to pause?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
Jess.
So I was a big advocate of this at last year. I am a big advocate of the METCO program. I do remember we had a very in-depth conversation, and I think my confusion is definitely around the fact that we made this very clear directive via motion that was unanimous, because I remember now saying, we don't want to be in this situation at the same point last year. So I'm definitely sitting here feeling at a loss of the time crunch, and why are we trying to crunch this into a 2-week time frame when this motion was made a year ago, March? Because, in order to really truly invest in a program like METCO, I think we do have to have information on what's working and what's not working before we can really make an educated decision and fully evaluate what we're investing in and what we're doing moving ahead. And that was the breadth or the rub of the discussion that we had. So I am confused about why that motion hasn't yielded any response, and that we're sitting here in the same exact situation a year later at budget time, not having that information is extremely frustrating. And again, I'm a passionate believer in the METCO program, and a lot of towns do this really well. Longmeadow can do it really well, but we need to put forth the effort, and that starts by looking at what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. And that legwork has to be done, and it's not going to be a 1 week or a 2 week process, which is why we did it at the end of last year. But like I said, these districts who are successfully participating in this program, it's structured, there's protocol, it's comprehensive, and so we need to look at where we're going and decide as a district where we're going, and we can't do that without the data and the information first.
Right.
Could I ask you, do you have the motion from last year in front of you? Would you
I
read
have it
this?
from the minutes.
I just it could be that, well, I'm just interested in hearing it one more time, so I just want to try and get my head around it, if you have it handy there.
Yes, and I will say that there's also a video of it if you go to the March 28th meeting. I think it's, I can't remember how far into it, but it was really lengthy. But I think Diane did a good job of
Yeah, I remember it was a lengthy
putting it together.
discussion.
You want to just read it again?
So it says, Mr. Clark moved, seconded by Mr. Dupre, that the school committee accept 5 students at the kindergarten level through the METCO program and ask the administrative team to provide a report next year examining all aspects of the METCO program, including staffing implications and financial implications in Longmeadow, and recommendations to make it better. The report should contain regional and statewide comparisons of similar programs, and Ms. Sandra McDonald, METCO Assistant Coordinator, should report to the school committee next year. The amended motion passed unanimously.
So for what it's worth, I wouldn't want you to think that we haven't been attentive to the committee's interest in improving services to Metco students. So it might be that we need some additional clarity around what is meant by all aspects, so that it might be helpful to have that conversation tonight. But I would just say, just so, I'm looking forward to doing the presentation on the 14th, but there's been a number of things that we've tried to do to shore up the Metco program this year. Sue has been regularly in contact with Metco administrators in Springfield. We've been very purposeful about getting Sandy to our elementary, Sandy McDonald's as our Metco coordinator, getting her to the elementary schools. That hadn't happened in the past. Having her having a presence when needed at the elementary schools. We've talked a lot about culturally responsive practices, partly in relation to that Metco discussion, and we kind of built that into some of the district improvement plan, and we've got some administrators that have participated in culturally responsive training, and we talked about doing some of that for next year. So I think that, when we just step back a little bit, kind of recognizing that we do want to make sure that we're serving, students who participate in that Metco program. In terms of the all aspects of the program and the staffing, and we might be able to pin that down. I think a lot of it we potentially have at our fingertips, and we can have it for you on the 14th. And some of it has been ongoing this year, so if we can tease that, as lengthy as that was, we can tease it out a little bit more to make sure that we're getting you the best information we can on the 14th. So when you say all aspects, how can we help with that? Like what specifically? And we got your email, so that might help too.
And I think if I provide maybe the verbatim of what was discussed, because it was in the motion, the actual motion that was approved, it will separate that out. But what I had specifically also wanted, in addition to what was asked, and this was part of what was asked, was some feedback from families. I think we're really lacking the feedback when you have a program to find out what's working, what's not. I'm particularly interested to know what it's like for these families to have one child here and not have their siblings here. So I have seen that we have, I want to know how many kids are dropping out. What is our retention? Where are they dropping out if they're dropping out? And what is it like for those families? That was one big thing that I wanted this year, is to hear from the families. And from that request and pushing that was the only reason that we found out that those kids were on the bus for 4 hours a day, and it would have stayed if we hadn't pushed to change it. So this evaluation was really important to me last year when we have a program like this that I truly do believe in, and the committee believes in and believed in. And I think that this evaluation piece is really important, not just for our budgetary decisions that we're facing right now, but just when you have a program, you need to know how it's running. And in order to know how it's running, you need to evaluate it. And we have not been doing that, and we've not been getting feedback aside from one small gathering of parents. So that was one piece that I really wanted, was that parent feedback.
Is there one person who oversees Metco, or is it the administrative teams? Is there someone who is kind of, in charge of that?
Sandy McDonald is our coordinator.
But in terms of our administrative team?
I write the grant every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm just thinking maybe it would be helpful if there is maybe one contact person on Metco, because, somewhere the ball got dropped on this, dating back last year and from last year to this year. So I think it does boil down to, communication, who's sending in requests for information, who's answering the request, who's responsible, how's it getting communicated? I think that we need to.
Well, my understanding, I was always told
to,
I was sending it to Sue. So I was always told to send it to Sue, but it would also be, Michelle would get it and Marty would get it. And
when did you send that
last
email,
year.
Stephanie?
So just recently, when this came on the agenda, I sent it to Michelle, but we had this conversation back in the fall where I was requesting the
So
information
what's the
too.
normal process then if the motion is made? Like who sees that is followed up and, like what happened with the
may I answer that, Russ?
Mhm.
If the school committee makes a motion, it's a directive to the administration then to fulfill whatever is stated in that motion. And what Stephanie's trying to say is that that directive hasn't been fulfilled. And I just wanted to add, my depth of concern, as I stated, isn't just about the motion, and it's not just about how I feel about the program. It's also that Marty and I had a lot of conversations, and for the sake of transparency, for everybody at the table and in general, about Medco last year, the two of us. And he and I both expressed concerns throughout the year about the Medco program. And so it wasn't a one and done deal. It wasn't like it was one meeting, we had a comprehensive discussion. He and I had a lot of discussion about it last year. So my frustration about this ball being dropped goes far beyond just that motion. And it predates that meeting from the beginning of last year.
So we should come up with a plan then.
So we do need to come up with a plan and a way to move
Who's
forward.
responsible for what?
But again, we're in a situation where we're caught with our pants down at the end of the year, and it's not where we should be. So we have to figure out how to navigate that together.
So I think I'm hearing from some people that they're not ready to vote.
Right.
We have two options.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay. Okay. And do you have enough information, do you think, at this point to put together a?
We'll go back and we'll review the motion.
Yeah.
I think the question is, sometimes, there might have been a lot of discussion surrounding the motion. Is that part of what you want in court? Like, so the discussion attached to that motion, is that something you want folded in? I mean, we'll make a lot of this has already been compiled, the parent survey has been created. We've got a lot of data at our fingertips. Sue and I were reviewing some the other day. So I think a lot of this is in a go position for you. If we come to you on the 14th and it's missing something, just let us know. We'll bring it back to you the next meeting. There was an email that, Stephanie, you had sent us a couple days ago with the list of items that you're looking for. I don't know if that should be, I don't know that was part of the discussion last year, but I think we'll need some clarity on whether or not you want that included.
Well, I think it's all in how you would. That's data I would use when reviewing a program. So I guess that's up to your discretion as to how you would review a program. But we didn't have a report, so that's information that I would want to look at in order to review, especially if kids are dropping out. I also want to know.
I mean, the only way for us, though, not to interrupt you, to decide as a committee, though, is to have, we don't know what emails you've sent and what information you've asked for. So if we're going to change the motion and change the directive, then that's going to put us behind. So the question is, are we going to move forward with a motion as it stands from last March 2017, and hopefully it will yield to the best that we can get right now, because we can't sort of haphazardly be adding things on.
I don't think
without a full discussion, and that's going to put us out another 2 weeks.
No, I think the motion last year was all encompassing of the information.
I do too. I think the language is on.
It was a full review of every piece of it. Now,
But can I just ask you, were your emails outside of what I'm trying to understand is, were your emails outside of the scope of the motion?
I don't believe so. I believe you would look at that data in order to review the program.
Okay.
Their numbers, in terms of, I can tell you some of the information that I requested, but it was really, it was numbers. It's how many students in each class, who graduated, how many kids dropped out from one year to the next year when they left the program, what grade was it?
Yes, we discussed that at the meeting, the dropout rate and the yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was really, graduation numbers. Do we have any postgraduate information?
Postgraduate information, I remember that, yep.
I wanted to look at the bus routes for the past 5 years to see if this has been an ongoing problem so we can plan for the future. And then what academic and social supports are in place for the METCO students and families. How is the program evaluated? How is input received from families and students? Is exit information gathered from graduates and any students who have dropped out? This is all within the scope of, a program review and what we were asking for last year. And, I think I wouldn't be as heated and passionate about it. We had this discussion last year, and you can watch the video, and it was, okay, let's get this information. We don't have this. We're right here. We realize, we recognize we have to get this information to make a better decision for next year. And I don't think I'd be, as emotional about it right now had we not encountered a significant problem in the fall with the busing, where I feel like students were put at risk. I wouldn't put a 5-year-old on a bus for 2 hours to get to school and to get home. What happens when they have to go to the bathroom? Like, I can't even talk about that. So we got to that problem because we haven't done a program review. And so
Okay. So
that's why I apologize. I am heated because it is emotional, because I think we got to a place that I'm not comfortable with.
So I think, did you just withdraw the motion? Okay.
We'll go back to the motion from last year.
Yep.
And that we'll do our best to have the report on the 14th reflect that motion. I think slowly we have been compiling information and making program improvements, and hopefully the 14th will show the culmination of a lot of work that has been ongoing. So I think we'll be ready for you.
Melanie?
To me, it sounds like this maybe is something that should be done maybe on an annual basis, rather than all of a sudden, oh, we need to review this, and now it's been 1 year, 2 years, 3
Well,
years.
that was what we were
I
initiating.
mean, maybe it's something that annually,
That was
the
the purpose.
administration, sit down and bring an annual report, and if there are red flags, if there's like, uh-oh, they're sitting on a bus type of thing. That would be my only suggestion, that it's something that every year is kind of looked at.
Karen?
Just quickly, is there a way for us to, Diane, maybe could you send us a link to that meeting? So I feel very out of the loop on this whole situation, so.
Right, because it predated you.
Right,
Melanie,
exactly.
and
So I'm
Karen
wondering
and
if
Beth.
I could get some background information just to watch that, but then also just moving forward, something to think about. I had no idea that Stephanie was even requesting this information. So again, feeling very out of the loop. Is there some way that we can know who's requesting what information, what we're looking at for future agenda? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, a better system.
Communication.
Yes.
I think Chris was going to speak to that.
Yeah, it was. So, just kind of globally, what I would say is, committee makes a motion, last year. That really should have been assigned to somebody to work on.
Right.
With, then what happens is that person would come back to the full committee to say, am I going down the right path? Do I need more information? That type of thing. But I don't think we can individually be asking for the information either, which is kind of where I was going before, is that I think the report needs to be done. It comes to us. If we don't think there's enough information in the report, then we go back to administration and say, listen, it's missing X, Y, and Z. Now, in this case, the report hasn't happened, so we can't get to that point. But I
Right.
think it's really, I think we need to talk more as a committee about that, as far as how do we ask. That was actually the appropriate way to do it, was a motion, we say we want X, and then you get X. But I think if it doesn't happen, then we just ask administration, we still need that report. You get the report, and then we can ask for additional information. But I think individual members, any of us, and sometimes I do that too, asking for information, it either has to go through the chair or we have to vote on it. Because that vote was clear, it's in the record, that's what needs to happen. The information you're asking for may very well dovetail with that, but I think it would have to come to all of us, and we look at it and say, this is an important topic, but it's always a question of how much time do we want spent on any particular topic? This is probably one of the topics we do want a lot of time spent on. But that's normally the way it would happen. So we'd get the report first, then ask, is there some other things? Or they'd come to us and say, I don't really understand what that motion was. Probably what happened here, I'm surmising, is it just probably got lost because, probably nobody got assigned to do it, so it just didn't happen. I forgot about it too, actually. So we need to work on that to make the communication better, I think, overall.
What if we make something like that a part of our agenda? So even if it's under like school committee announcements or something where we're requesting information, we had at one point, at the end, we used to have topics for,
Future agenda items.
And those have just been coming to me over email, and I've got a system to track them.
That's why I had that in there, but then we were worried about the open meeting law with having that on the agenda,
Right.
but maybe we should go back to that.
Can I just say something on that? Because we did talk, and I do want to speak to what Russ said, because I do believe that I have done all that. We made the motion, we brought it back in the fall. I asked for the data again about, specifically with the parent information that I wanted. We then found out there was a big issue with the bus. We were going to put it on the agenda. Meanwhile, MECO hasn't just fallen off. It's been on the radar as an issue, a big issue. And you'd think that when you had a busing issue that big, it might trigger, okay, where is our review of this program? So I did, we brought it back in September, talked about it in terms of the busing, and then when it came to the vote and we had no report was when I was asking for information for the purposes of this agenda. And when Michelle asked why, I said, because of the review. This is information that I'm looking for as part of the review that was requested last year. So I don't know that there's anything else that I could have done except continue to, I don't know that this has not been, it hasn't been off of our radar. METCO has been right there in front of us, so.
Nobody can see me down there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. I just want to defend Stephanie because we talked earlier in the school year about a satisfaction kind of survey to get feedback from parents. And a lot of those questions that we wanted to ask revolved around transportation. And that's been in flux for so long. In fact, it just started Monday. So we've been holding off and sending the surveys out, although parents do know that the surveys are coming and they'll be asked to send them back as soon as possible for parent feedback. So I just want you to know that that mechanism is there. We've been waiting to, till transportation got put in place so that we could send them out. So that involves more than just transportation, but that's a big piece I think that, Stephanie and I are both concerned about. But so.
Thank you, Sue.
So I think what I'm hearing is the goal of the program review is to determine whether or not the METCO program is successful. Does that make?
Well, while I was also pairing it with the school choice was one question I wanted to hear from these families is what is it like to have one child here and the rest of their siblings elsewhere? And is there, why are we losing kids? Are we losing them because it is too stressful? And how much are they able to participate in sports? And I'm wondering why they're dropping out and what it's like for them. And if it is a stressor and we want this program to thrive, do we think about, encouraging them to apply for school choice, the siblings, so that we don't we give preference to siblings for school choice. METCO works differently. It's a lottery. You couldn't give preference, as far as I know, for siblings through the program. But you could encourage them to come in through school choice. Is that something that we're interested in looking at? I don't know because I don't have enough information about how it's working for families. So that was one thing that I had talked about last year, and I continue to have that question this year because I can't imagine how that is to have one child here and your other siblings in another school district, and maybe it's working out fine, and maybe it's not. So I wanted that information. As it relates to school choice. That's why I wanted to leave that door open a little bit.
Okay.
It's not a big deal, but I know we talked about dropout information last year. I don't know that it was a formal report.
I did look
Tom
at
and I
that.
are racking our brains to see when about that was. But
Yeah, it was last spring, and I did look at that, and there is, I can't tell what grades that the numbers dropped. So what I'm wondering is what grades do we lose them? I need that specific. I have numbers going across so I can tell.
Yeah, but I thought I came and talked about exactly how many students left and the reasons why they left.
I think we had one that was graduation. They had graduated earlier, but no specific. Like I have, I'd like to know like what grades we're losing them at.
Yeah.
And I think full disclosure, I think it'll be tough we can provide the retention rates and provide you with some hard data on that. I think what will be more difficult to tease out is the reasons. So if we see some attrition.
No, the reasons for yes, parent survey for the reasons, and then grade level when we lose them would be enough.
Right.
But to get that.
Okay. I think we've got a good handle on it now, or do you feel that way, that you?
We'll go back to the meeting and the motion and,
That's what I was going to say, reviewing the meeting, I
yeah,
think
and
will help a
we'll
lot.
do our best. I think Melanie's idea, just we always have annual reports in special education and athletics,
Yes.
and we can just institutionalize this,
Yes.
and hopefully a couple of years from now, it'll just be part of our regular routine.
And then as for developing a better system, other than requests to the chair, maybe does policy want to try to tackle that, or? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to, or maybe Diane, who's awesome at organization, can try to help us figure out a system.
Well, I mean, the
I don't
norm
know.
is the chair or a vote is the only way
I'm going to recommend a
to get
vote.
information.
Somehow, so that it's not all, because if it's one person coming to me and I have a judgment call of, I'd rather put it at the committee and let the committee decide what information they want, so I'm not the person that has to determine it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Just my 2 cents on that.
Yep.
I would prefer it that way as well, because
Okay.
then I feel like I would be more in the loop.
Yes.
Like I feel like
Agreed.
my
Okay.
one of my biggest complaints is that I always feel like
Right.
I'm out of the loop
Right.
as far as
Right, and I
what's
can't
going
go
on.
and tell everyone,
Right,
so
because of
let's just
open
make it a
meeting.
part
I mean, I
of.
get that's part of it, but the more discussion we have here, I think the better it is to keep everybody on the same page.
Okay, so how about, and skip over policy, if we just try to maintain that habit from now on, that we make requests for information or reports at the school committee meeting, and tomorrow morning I'll figure out where that might
Yeah,
fit.
and I wouldn't, certainly we're always happy to provide. committee
Yeah,
members.
this is what I'm thinking. I'm like,
yeah,
I
don't
mean,
wanna-
part of the relation, the
Yeah.
symbiosis, I don't mean to interrupt you, Marty.
Yeah.
The symbiosis
Yeah.
is what between the committee members, I mean, there has to be, it's that lawyer word of reasonableness.
Correct.
And Marty and I had a lot of conversations about this last year, and I think we really agreed on the fact that school committee members need to feel comfortable seeking out administrators and asking questions, but when it becomes burdensome or cumbersome, and there's a large amount of information that's being requested, that's when we have to say, okay, hold on a second, this needs to go to the full committee. And I
Yes,
did not
that's
mean
exactly-
to.
you said it better than me.
hijack your
I'm glad you
comment,
said it.
But we totally were on the same page on that
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's important for school committee members to have, I'm always bugging Tom about, finance questions. It's part of the deal. It's part of the relationships that we have with administrators.
Okay.
So we have to find a way to
Okay.
fall within the reasonableness.
Okay, so somehow the committee, or I guess I'm requesting for the future chair, because I'm not going to be it for very much longer, that it doesn't fall on to the chair's
I
lap.
think that the new
It's too
committee
hard.
or whatever can talk about it.
Just putting the plug in for whoever it is.
I think there's also projects get assigned to somebody.
Yeah.
When they happen, because
That's a good point.
that really, that's what, I have to do that too.
Yeah.
I make a note who's gonna do what.
So that can be
Yeah.
with you. Okay. Moving on to participation in athletics for homeschooled students. So this is the part of the conversation we were having before that I would like to include your recommendation. I know Marty has a very lengthy
Well, I can
recommendation.
take a shot at saving
Please.
you all some time on
Yes,
this. I mean,
please.
I feel like I got enough guidance from the policy subcommittee to work productively with the family,
Okay.
and in ways that I think will be acceptable.
Great.
So-
Hallelujah.
So you
That's,
don't need any information from us right now, or?
I think Stephanie outlined what the policy subcommittee's intentions are with regard to athletic participation, and I've got enough to go on to work with the family.
Okay. I guess I want to put in my plug for, you've given us your recommendation, and I I love that recommendation. I think that if we're able to allow this student to participate this season, if there's any way to allow that, I guess I'm just giving you my support of that, because I think athletics is the most, arguably one of the most important parts of students' education. So, that's my opinion on it, and I think you already said it. I think you had asked for our opinion if the committee wishes or something like that. So I'm saying, I guess I wish.
If the committee's is taking that directionally, then that's direction to me in terms of how we work with that family.
Yeah. So you don't need any direction from.
I'm okay. I mean, if you want to dive into it more, you're welcome to.
Well, I just want to add one thing. So, as far as MIAA, I just want to make sure that whatever we decide gets cleared with them, because if a kid plays and then actually not eligible, then you lose the whole season.
They won't be
Right,
able to.
and then that school committees nor superintendents determine athletic eligibility. That has to be decided by the building principal. You
just wanna
create the
make sure.
policies that.
Because we don't have everything MIAA would want right now. So the question is.
We did outline what we would need, I had printed.
Can we get that done before the kid actually starts playing?
The question is, I think that ed plan and approval can happen. I think the question is whether MIAA is gonna grant the waiver.
Correct.
Because it's later in the year, and typically that's signaled, I
Okay,
think,
so we're
last
gonna go
year.
through that process anyway, and, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we don't have a choice on that MIAA. We had looked at that,
Yep.
Thank you.
so.
Okay, anybody else on that topic? Okay, thank you, Policy Sub. I know that was a lot of work, and to administration, because I know that there was a lot of behind-the-scenes work involved in that, too. Thank you. Overnight field trip requests. We have 3 overnight field trip requests for your consideration during this meeting. There are recommended motions on the table, if anyone would like them, or on the agenda.
I move that the school committee approve the overnight field trip request for students at Long Meadow High School in the Latin classes to travel to Italy and Greece in April 2018.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I move that the school committee approve the overnight field trip request for students at Long Meadow High School in the East Asia Club to travel to Japan in April 2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And
I move that the school committee approve the overnight field trip request for students at Long Meadow High School in the Model UN Club to travel to UMass and Amherst, Mass. in March 2018.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, due to a posting error, the executive session will not be held, so I could entertain a motion to adjourn. Anyone wants to
So
move? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Whew.